You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
All right, welcome back. It's another episode of 91 Reasons. Thank you for tuning in, and for whatever reason you decided to click on it, here we are once again. And I've had quite a week. This was the week that Not Scary Farm opened, and I am very deeply embroiled in one of the mazes there called Trapped, which is an upcharge maze. It costs $60 for a group of 1 to 6 to go through, on top of your ticket price. So we've been very tasked with trying to get people through as quickly as we can, knowing that they've paid a lot of money to go through, but also knowing that they can't be rushed because they have paid a lot of money for this experience. So I'll tell you what, I am exhausted, and I don't have any reserve episodes. I've burned through them all because, you know, with life you get busy. So I'm doing these episodes on the fly here, which is fine because, you know, as I always say, I got a big mouth and I like to talk, so I'm always going to have something to talk about. And I got, it's funny because I've met a lot of people. Haunt is Not Scary Farm, Halloween Haunt. It's weird, real quick. If you don't work Haunt and you just go to it, people call it Scary Farm. You going to Scary Farm this year? Yeah, we're going to Scary Farm this year. But if you work it, like me, it's called Haunt, because Haunt has less syllables. It's easier to say. But if you tell somebody I'm going to Haunt, they don't really know what you're talking about. You have to either really be deep in it to know the shortened Haunt versus Scary Farm moniker. But what's been fun is I've actually met a lot of people because Haunt is so big and everybody around here goes, and some people not from around here. I've met a lot of people who know me either from what I do at Scary Farm or on the Season Pass podcast or from 91 Reasons, which is really cool. I met a guy named Trig Nelson who hit me up on Facebook and said he was in town from Florida. And a really funny moment with him because, listen, I am exhausted. You don't have any idea. My workday begins around 3 o'clock and doesn't end until 5 a.m. the next morning. I drag myself to bed about 5:30 and then do it all over again. So I'm in a haze. You know that the in Fight Club when he says when you have insomnia you just sort of walk through life in a haze. That's everybody who works Scary Farm, from the guy who sells the Cokes to the monsters to me to everybody. We all put 100,000% into the event, so we're all walking around literally the Walking Dead. But I was in such a haze when I met this guy that I said, "Hey, do you want to take a picture or something? And take a picture with me or something?" And I was just, as it came out of my mouth, I was like, "If he wanted a picture, Jeff, he'd take a picture. Why are you prompting him to take a picture?" And I said, I know that sounds so egotistical, and I'm really sorry. And if you don't want to take a picture, you don't have to take a picture. But he did. I mean, he was polite. He must have thought I was insane. It was really funny. So if you're listening, a bit of weirdness, right? A bit of weirdness. But no, I've met a lot of really cool people. A lot of regulars who always want to talk about the show, which is great. And a lot of guys who I only know peripherally, and they've come up to me and they just want to talk about the Drunks episode, and they want to know if Don Berg is a real person, and then they want me to do the voice for them. And the minute I turn and I go, "I told you not to wash your hands of the sick," they go crazy, like, "It's really him." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's him. He really exists. I really lived my life with that crazy man. And that's why I am the way I am." or in spite of it, right? Anyways, we're going to talk about a movie really near and dear to my heart. And if you're listening to this show, probably near and dear to your heart, because it is a classic, a modern day classic, And it's Clerks. Clerks by Kevin Smith. And I tell you, in 1994, I read Premiere Magazine and Entertainment Weekly. Entertainment Weekly was pretty new at that time. And they kept mentioning, because they always like to cover the the Sundance Film Festival and tell you all about these movies you were never going to see. And especially in 1994, where there was no internet and the only way to get a movie was a VHS bootleg or, smuggling into or driving hours and hours to some screening. There just wasn't a lot of avenues to deliver the film to the fans. And the more the magazines talked up this strange movie, this little black and white movie that was about people working at a convenience store, and they talked about pop culture topics like Star Wars and stuff like that, the more I was like, wait a minute, I got to see this movie. This sounds great. For the time, this sounds unlike any movie that's ever come out. Every big studio picture was high concept or high drama, and the idea of doing a slice of life movie about guys who did nothing was unheard of. Who's going to make this movie? I had seen movies about nothing. None of them clicked. There was a movie, and I don't know if it was before or after Clerks. I'll have to look it up. It was called The Remains of the Day. And you know what? I bet it was before Clerks. And it was about homeless kids in Los Angeles, and there were a lot of TV sitcom stars in it. And it was, again, a movie pretty much about nothing. But yeah, it wasn't that good. I didn't care for it at all. And what was that other movie? The movie Kids, where it was just a bunch of kids having sex, and one of them's got AIDS. And who is she giving it to people? And it's like, there's no plot, but it's good. It was okay. It was all right. I'm sorry if you like those movies. A lot of movies that are pretentious like that, I just don't get. I was never part of that free sex scene. You have to understand, in the grand scheme of things, my generation, Generation X as it was dubbed, we got royally screwed. Because the generation before us, the one who grew up in the 70s, they slept with everybody. It was free love everywhere. And what happened? AIDS happened. No duh. Everybody was sleeping with everybody. So when AIDS came out in the early 80s, mid to early 80s, they started giving us sex education in school. And the idea was, if you had sex, you were going to die. This is what they taught us. Like, there's no way out. Everybody who has sex is going to die. You better wait till marriage. You better have a blood test. You better find out that they don't have it and wait. Otherwise, you're dead. So there was not a lot going on. Everybody was terrified. All the propaganda worked. Just Say No didn't include just drugs. It was all encompassing of everything that anybody wanted to do. And then what happened? Then Magic Johnson came out. Oh, I've got AIDS. I slept with 10,000 women and I've got AIDS. And guess what? Magic Johnson didn't die. The drugs got better and better, and people learned to cope. Now, a lot of really tragic deaths occurred because of this. I'm not belittling AIDS. Don't think that. I'm simply commenting on the culture. And the culture was from about 1983 to 1994. If you have sex before marriage or with someone you don't trust, you're going to die. And then the drugs got better, and Magic Johnson came out, and he didn't die. And suddenly the apron strings on it got loosened. People started sleeping with each other a lot, and this and that. The 90s generation had it all. They had the crappy grunge music, the crappy hip-hop music, but they had the ability to have sex with each other and not die. We didn't have that. So my generation is the only generation that went through this. Isn't that crazy? Like, that short window was every one of my teenage years. And by the time it ended, I was married. Thank you, government. Thank you. Thank you for your propaganda that worked. Remember that song? People are still having sex. This AIDS thing's not working. It's a really cheesy K-Rock song from the late 80s. But boy, didn't it nail it right by not nailing it, if you know what I mean. I don't even know how I got on this topic. But this movie came out in 1994, Clerks, and you couldn't see it. It didn't play anywhere. I think it played in one tiny little theater up in L.A., and If you missed the 2-week engagement, you missed it. And guess what? I missed it. And I really wanted to see this movie. I didn't quite know everything about it, obviously, but I knew it was for me. So the day it came out on VHS in 1995, I went and got it. I rented it first day from Tower Records. Remember Tower Records? God, I miss Tower Records. I like iTunes, and I like the ability to sit down at my desk and get any song I want for $1.29. But you know what I miss? I miss going to the record store. The Tower Record Store was all-encompassing. They had a mile-long newsstand of every magazine known to man. They had CDs. They had imports. They had VHS, laser discs, you name it. And they had a lot of rude employees who wouldn't help you. But Tower Records was a cool place. And I think of all the things that have gone, Blockbuster and Tower Records are the ones I miss the most. Because they were hubs of pop culture where you could just soak it in. So I got the movie. I rented it, Remember how expensive rentals used to be, too? Like, you look at movies now, it's like, my gosh, the red box is what, $1.29 a day or something? And back in the day, Tower Records rentals were like, I think they were like $3.50 or something. I remember them being not cheap. But this was it. This was how you got it. And the first time I watched Clerks, I was blown away. I was blown away because here, for the first time, all the hype lived up to it. And what I mean by hype was the no hype. Not like this is the greatest spectacle you're ever going to see. You're going to see cities fall and Rome's going to burn. No, nothing like that. Anti-hype. No one's going to like this movie. This is a movie made by nerds for nerds. And that's what it was. It was a movie made for all the 20-somethings. And in 1995, I was 24. So I was right in the pocket of who this movie was aimed at. And at the time, I worked at, I was at Knott's in 94. But the lead up to that was I had worked both at 2 video stores. And then I worked at Spencer Gifts, And I worked at Spencer Gifts because I call it Spencer Gifts. Because everybody who doesn't work there calls it Spencer's. Let's go to Spencer's, that dirty shop in the mall with all the weird stuff. Let's go there. But I worked at Spencer's, and the video store portion of Clerks was like aimed right at me. Oh my gosh. It's weird to see a movie like Clerks where you're not transported to another world or walking in someone else's shoes, but instead it's mirroring your exact experience. And that's why Clerks is so good, because it's like the first time you watch Clerks, and if you've worked retail, you're like, wow, did they have a camera on me? Was somebody taking notes? Because Randall working at RST Video is exactly how it was working at Multi-Video and Blockbuster Video, with people asking all the stupid questions about movies and arguing with you about movies that just came out in the theater, but they know are on the shelf and you're just somehow holding it from them. I'm sorry. Dick Tracy came out in theaters today. No, I saw the commercial. Yeah, you saw the commercial for the theatrical release. I know you have it. I don't have it. If I had it, sir, it'd be on the wall. There'd be 50 copies checked out. Well, we still wouldn't have it. But gosh, Clerks was everything about the 90s and working distilled into an hour and a half, and the roughness of it, the rough look and feel of the movie makes it seem more real, If you look at other movies that were made, and we'll talk about that in a minute, they're so slick that even though they're trying to copy Clerks, they don't get it right. And of course, I'm speaking of the biggest offender, Empire Records. If you've seen Empire Records, man, did somebody not watch Clerks and say, we got to get one of those. You find some kids, you find a store, you find a problem, and you make a movie. Now, the difference is that Clerks has no plot. Minimal. The plot is Dante Hicks gets called in on a day he's not even supposed to be there. I'm not even supposed to be here today. And he has all these misadventures with his friend Randall throughout the day. And I guess the plot of Clerks is maybe what you're looking for is right there. Because he pines and pines for this other girl. And then when he gets her, it's ruined. And the girl that he really loved, Veronica, dumps him because he's screwed up. And in the movie, Dante tells you this because he says life is a series of downers, just like The Empire Strikes Back. So if that's the plot of Clerks, that's the plot of all us guys who work these dead-end jobs. You know? We all wanted Caitlin, but it was really Veronica that was good for us. But you don't learn that till it's too late. Hopefully you use that to make yourself a better person. But yeah, this movie came out and it just sort of signaled a whole new way of thinking about movies. And gosh, if you look at 1994, what a year for movies. 1994, and this is just a few. Clerks, Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, and The Lion King, all in the same year. Plus Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. That's insane. You'd be hard-pressed to find 3 good movies this year. I can only think of Guardians and the Lego Movie, both starring Chris Pratt. You know what? Edge of Tomorrow was really good. Nobody saw it. When I went and saw Edge of Tomorrow, the Tom Cruise movie, I was the only one in the theater. And I thought it was fantastic. I was impressed. But 94 was a watershed year for movies. And it's weird to think like everything was clicking in 93 to get those movies out by 94. What an impressive slate, Shawshank Redemption you can watch over and over and over again. It's one of those movies wherever it is when you flip by it on the television, you have to stay till the end. Because you have to see Red walking up the beach to Andy. That's a movie law. Yeah, 1994, man. Now, of course, I didn't see it till 95, so does it count? I don't know. But I was just transfixed by this movie, And as soon as it became available for sale, I bought it. And I watched it over and over again. Just wrecked that VHS tape. And then I got it on Laserdisc, which was great because the Clerks Laserdisc was one of the early adopters of the commentary. And that's where you found out that it had a different ending. It's like, really? Oh, the alternate ending is at the very end, somebody walks in and shoots Dante dead? Well, thank God somebody talked Kevin Smith out of that. What a terrible way to end your movie. Yeah, that's just, to me, it's lazy. It's lazy filming. And imagine if that had been the ending. I don't think we'd be talking about Clerks 20 years later. I think if Dante Hicks had died, we wouldn't have got any of the View Askew movies afterward, the View Askew-niverse, because it's too dark. It's too dreary, Dante's had a terrible day. He got woken out of bed. He got dragged to work when he's supposed to be playing hockey. The other guy wasn't coming in, so it was all a ruse, a clever ruse. He spends the day being tormented by Randall, the slacker of all slackers. And he ends up reconciling with his one true love, who then has sex in the bathroom with a dead guy and is traumatized forever. Then his girlfriend dumps him. And then what? We're going to let him get killed? Come on, Kevin. Thank God somebody talked him out of it. It's very rare that you see a movie with an alternate ending and you go, well, that would have been better. Because you know what? You step back and you always find a way to think about it a different way and come up with something better. And just ending Clerks with, you're closed, cut to black, That's the way you do it. Because Clerks is slice of life of a day in the life of two clerks. Randall at the video store and Dante at the convenience store. So it should just end with the end of the workday. It doesn't have to make a bigger message. You know, all of us who went to work day in and day out at dead-end jobs like that, there was no meaning to be found in it. That's why Clerks resonates so much, because here's a movie that is about nothing, glorifying the nothing that we're living through. Now, I never played hockey on the roof, but I goofed off at work just like everybody else, you know? When I worked at Spencer Gifts, across the way was one of those nurse uniform stores. You know, you see them in the mall and no one's ever in there shopping. They must get like 2 customers a week. And those people must buy a lot of scrubs to keep them in business. But there was always a girl working it, and she was bored to tears. So we would watch her. We'd watch her leave the counter and go into the store to, like, you know, straighten up, price, whatever. And as soon as she left the counter, we would pick up the phone and dial her store. And then we'd see her walk back to the counter and pick up the phone. Then we'd hang up. And she'd look at the phone. And then she'd go back in the store. And then we called again. And we started, before she'd get to the phone, we would just make it stop ringing, just hang up before she even picked it up. And oh my God, that poor woman, we tormented her. That was, oh God, was that so much fun. But that was working retail, man. It was drudgery, day in, day out, the same old garbage. And here was a movie saying it was okay to do that at work. That you weren't alone. That everybody was having the same experience doing it. And I just fell in love with the characters. You know, Randall and Dante are 2 of the most sincere characters that you'll see on screen. Dante is the frustrated, fussy guy that deep down we probably all are. And Randall's the goof, the ne'er-do-well that we all want to be. And when Randall borrows Dante's car to go rent a movie, and Dante says, "You work at a video store." And he goes, "I work in a crappy video store. I want to go to a good video store." Everybody who worked at Blockbuster shook our heads. We need a car to go to a good video store because we work at Blockbuster and they don't stock anything but the newest, greatest releases. And we want the obscure movies that nobody's going to buy. And there was Randall on screen doing it. Now, he was going to buy a really dirty adult film. And you know what? That was never really my speed. But in the same context, I could see myself going to another, leaving Blockbuster, going to another video store to get a movie like Clerks because Blockbuster wasn't going to stock it. So the movie just keeps echoing all these things that are in your life. And when they started talking about Star Wars, this was a revelation because Pulp Fiction and Clerks came out within months of each other. And here were 2 guys, Tarantino and Kevin Smith, who were baptized in the water of cinema and pop culture and didn't see it on the screen. What we saw on the screen were people trying to create new pop culture. And while Smith and Tarantino were doing that, what they were also doing was commenting on the previous pop culture. We had never seen this in movies before. When they start talking in Clerks about the construction of the new Death Star and all the contractors who must have been on it, and whether it was right that the rebels blow it up. I mean, we're all watching it nodding like, oh my God, they're talking about Star Wars. And not just talking about how cool it is, but like really talking about minutia, which is what us geeks of all geeks did with our friends. We talked about the minutia, about this and that. About, does... when Ben gets hit with a lightsaber, is the lightsaber makes you disappear, or does it cut you in half, or where'd he go? Did he vanish? Did he make a deal with somebody? Was there a hole in the floor? What's going on? And here was a movie with two characters plus the guy, the contractor, having a little conversation about Star Wars. And isn't that like the ultimate mirror? And, I became an instant Kevin Smith fan, like a lot of people, And I know that one of our big listeners, Adrian Romo, who's probably taking a shower right now, because he said he listens to me in the shower. Thanks, Adrian. Adrian and I used to sit and talk about Clerks forever and all the View Askew movies, but we're really only talking about Clerks. I don't have enough time in this episode to go into all the View Askew movies. That's like another hour, almost 2-hour episode. So we're going to break it down into just segments. And there was no movie like Clerks. So when we sat down, man, did we quote and quote and quote. Here's a movie that's talking about pop culture at the same time it's creating the pop culture. Snoochies, boochies, snoogans, nah, Every line in Clerks is golden. I'm not even supposed to be here today. Who hasn't uttered that in their life? Who hasn't been screwed into working a day when you had stuff to do? And there you are, stuck behind the register, man. God, the register at Spencer Gifts was enormous. It was like operating a big steampunk computer. It had so many keys on it. This is before laser scanners at the mall. If you rang something up, you rang it up. You put the SKU number in. And I worked Spencer so often, I knew all the SKU codes. Isn't that ridiculous? So when I saw a movie that said it was okay to bitch about what you did, I mean, you knew we were all going to love it. And Clerks instantly became part of the lexicon, part of the shorthand. Yes, we talked Star Wars, but we also, even further down the rabbit hole, talked about Clerks talking about Star Wars while we talked about Star Wars. Right? Fantastic movie. It wasn't until long hours of studying it that I discovered some of its secrets, like the guy Snowball is the same guy who yells at him on the roof. You can't even pass. Like, that's Scott Mosier. I had no idea. He looked so different with a beard versus shaven. I had no idea that was Scott Mosier. Now, I could recognize that, what's his name, was playing all of the other parts, I knew that, what's his name, that plays all of the, Walt. I knew that Walt Flanagan played all the other parts. They had nobody to play. They kept calling the Lon Chaney of the 90s because he's different. Well, he's not that different. But it's okay, because maybe subliminally what Smith is saying is that all the customers start to look the same anyways. They do. They just start to become blurs of people who want stuff from people who are interrupting the time when you don't want to do anything. Oh, let me ring up your purchase. And, Marilyn, who plays Veronica, we've met her many times at conventions. She's such a nice lady, and she's so good in this movie. Who wouldn't want a girlfriend like Veronica? Doesn't Silent Bob say it best? There's a million fine-looking women in the world. Most of them will just, not everyone's going to bring you lasagna. Most of them are just going to cheat on you. Oh, my God, doesn't that say it all? That we spend our lives chasing the women that are bad for us when the good ones are right there, and we think, no. I've already got that. I want the bigger truck. I got a Hot Wheel. I need a bigger truck. I don't want to compare women to Hot Wheels, but you know what I mean. But gosh, you watch it and you pray for a different outcome every time. Because, Caitlin Bree, with the way she talks, and she's so cute with her outfit and her outfit. Okay, Caitlin, you're everything, right? Go marry your Asian design major and let Dante. I mean, doesn't Randall say it for all of us? I had him first. You break his heart again and I'll kill you. haven't we all been in that situation where a friend that you love dearly is dating a girl that you know is toxic for him? You just want to go to her. And Randall goes to her and says, you break his heart again and I will kill you. And he means it. He means it. We all have stuck up for our friends that way. Veronica's so good. I mean, she wields a fire extinguisher and blasts the people that are screaming, cancer merchant, at Dante. I mean, he's just trying to sell cigarettes. Just trying to sell smokes. Gosh, I bet when Clerks came out, cigarettes were like $1.50 a pack. You know, I'm not a smoker, but if you are, that must really upset you that the taxes have gotten so high. But no, I'm not a smoker. But I do enjoy Clerks. And again, in my passionate pursuit to go beyond the movie. Now, I've never been to Red Bank to where they filmed Clerks. I've never been there. It's the other side of the country. I've never been there. But I have tried to meet all the guys from the movie and try to get in on Kevin Smith's empire that he has created. And we're all just outsiders. Kevin's very inclusive when it comes to the fans, which is great. I mean, I don't know anybody who's told so many honest stories about himself. And what we did was Rachel and I actually went and saw one of his live shows way at the beginning when he started doing these live shows. We saw him up in Beverly Hills. And it was two and a half solid hours of all his stories of making Clerks and making, the awfulness of the Superman debacle where he wrote Superman Reborn or whatever it was supposed to be called. And it was pretty cool. That was 2002 because I know that because he had just published a big review on how great Attack of the Clones was, and I had just seen it, and I was like, Kevin, did you and I see the same movie? Because I didn't see anything about Attack of the Clones that made me think of Empire Strikes Back. Not even close, bud. But everybody's entitled to their opinion. You know, I've got mine, and I'm broadcasting it to the world the same way that Kevin Smith does over the amazing, wondrous device called podcasting. But we saw him live, and it was really cool. And right after that, it was one of those things where he didn't stick around to meet all the fans. There were too many people. But they did a revival screening of Clerks, and it was really cool. We went down, and it was like, gosh, I think it was a midnight showing of Clerks. And you remember that game show, Beat the Geeks, that was on Comedy Central? One of the geeks, the movie geeks, was there hosting it. And everybody was like, oh, it's the guy from Beat the Geeks. He knows everything about movies. And I was like, okay, he knows everything about movies. Okay, great. What now? He's on TV. Oh, he's on TV. How impressive. Now, he was a nice guy. But gosh, I can't imagine being in a situation where you put yourself on a game show as I'm the ultimate authority on this. Because I know a lot about movies and crap, but it's hard for me to, go on record. It's like, I know everything, because I don't know everything. I listened to every episode of the Hollywood Saloon in awe because John knows more about movies than I will ever forget. No, nothing. He knows everything. Cinematographers, editors, And you know what? Maybe I should tell a really quick story. When I was younger, there was a TV show called Remington Steele, starred Pierce Brosnan. And for some reason, this show really clicked with me because Brosnan was cool and he was suave. And I liked Stephanie Zimbalist, who was the real star of the show. And it was about, everybody knows this show, but I'm going to explain it real briefly for those that don't. Stephanie played a woman named Laura Holt who opened up a detective agency. And she couldn't get any work because nobody believed a woman could be a detective. So she invented a fake detective named Remington Steele to act as a front. So she would take the case, and Mr. Steele was always busy so that she could solve the cases and and make money. Well, what happened is this con man, played by Pierce Brosnan, assumes the role of Remington Steele, and she can't refute him because it'll expose her business. So they just sort of have this weird relationship where she doesn't know who he is, and he's a con man, and they were always teasing like who he really was and this stuff. But one thing that he did was he was always quoting movies, and he would quote the movie, and then he would give either the actor or the director and the studio and the year real quick. And you know what? For some reason, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like, how suave is that? Now, when I do it, I'm not nearly as good looking as Pierce Brosnan, so it's not quite the same. But I studied film. I studied film because I really liked it, because it clicked with me, because I understood the makeup of film and what a good movie can do to you, what a bad movie can do to you. And the byproduct of that was I was able to quote movies like Remington Steele. And doesn't that sound silly when you finally say it? But that's where it comes from. And I remember even writing to Pierce Brosnan via NBC and getting like a little fake signed picture in the mail. I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. So I really enjoyed that show. And I wanted to be Pierce Brosnan and quote movies. But I was never a guy like on Beat the Geek to look how great I am with all my movie knowledge. No, whenever somebody says to me, man, you know everything about movies, I always say the same thing. Yeah, that's great. That really impresses women. Women swoon when you tell them that you know who directed every movie they like. I mean, women don't care for the most part. They just don't care. So it's a skill that only impresses guys, which is great at a party with guys, but not so great if you're single in the 90s, early 90s, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? But we went and saw this Clerks revival screening, and it was great. I mean, Clerks on the big screen finally, in a movie. This is before digital, so it was an actual print of the movie that they spooled out on the screen. And Kevin was there. He introduced the film. We were very happy to see him. And afterwards, he stayed and he signed autographs. And you know what he did? I didn't get an autograph, but my wife did. She got him to autograph right where you put a tramp stamp. And then she went and made it into a tattoo. How about that? That's dedication. My wife has Kevin Smith's autograph tattooed on her back. That's a fan. I don't have any tattoos, but she's got that. So we're big fans of Mr. Smith and all the movies that he's done, and especially Clerks. And Clerks has always been one of those movies where, and you know what they are, movies you put on in the background when you want to do something. And a lot of people put on music. I put on movies because movies to me are comforting, familiar movies, you know. And Clerks is great because you put it on and you can do anything, but you can always glance up and immediately be in the movie. And you know every line of dialogue, you know. And every time I go to 7-Eleven, don't I go, snack cake, as I pick up a Hostess item? Everything Randall says is quotable. Doo-doot, doo-doot, salsa shark. I mean, every line of dialogue, you know. When he wrangles out the door, it's fantastic. So we saw it on the big screen finally. Full, packed house of nothing but Clerks fans, and that was a lot of fun. Met the man himself. Really cool. And then what was really cool is Kevin Smith, for a really brief amount of time, opened up a comic book store here in California, in Westwood, called Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash. And on the opening of it, they had all the stars out. So we were able to get in line, and gosh, the line was long. It was like a 3-hour line, but it was worth it because we got to meet Kevin and Brian O'Halloran, who plays Dante, and Jeff Anderson, who plays Randall, and Jay Muse, who plays Jay, Silent Bob, the whole bit. That was really cool. You know, these are like meeting friends. It's weird because it's not like meeting a celebrity. It's not like meeting Batman or somebody who's bigger than life on the screen. Clerks is such an intimate movie that meeting them was like simply hanging out with your friends. And it was really cool. And the other cool thing is they came out with a 10th anniversary Clerks X, Clerks 10, the 10th anniversary mega set. And it's got all kinds of alternate this and alternate that and all the mini movies that he made for The Tonight Show. But what it also has is a documentary called The Snowball Effect. And if you know the movie, that's a pretty pretty bold title for a documentary that that you're gonna put on the disc. Those of you who know Clerks know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, he's called Snowball because he likes this. Oh, I mean, you know that guy? And I mean, who hasn't quoted every time you see the number 37? 37? If you get a 37 Carl's Jr. table, little plastic thing that says what your order is, you have to take it. I'm sorry, Carl's Jr. You have to take it. 37? But they made a Clerks 10th anniversary, and they had a screening down at the ArcLight. And it was notable because they invited fans to come down if you wanted to participate in the Snowball Effect documentary and just talk about what Clerks means to you. So, of course, Rachel and I went right down. That was really cool. So, yes, if you watched Clerks 10th anniversary DVD, Snowball Effect documentary, right at the beginning, you can see Rachel and me talking about Clerks. And once again, we got to jump beyond the screen and be a part of something that means so much to us. It's really cool, And we've seen Walt at Comic-Con, and we watch every episode of Comic Book Men. And because Clerks is so engaging, I did follow Kevin Smith's career like every fanboy did, because here was a guy who was us, who made it. And we wanted to make sure that his career didn't end. Like, it's weird to say that everybody who was a geek like me had a vested interest in Kevin Smith's success, because it meant that if he could do it, we could do it. If he could make a movie, we could make a movie. Now, I never made a movie. I just don't have the time. And God bless Kevin Smith for having the time to do it. It's just not in the cards for me. My art comes out in different ways. I have time for novels. I have time for this podcast. But I never had time to make a movie. And I really wanted to. And I started a couple of times, with Kevin Smith in the back of my head urging me on. But we wanted him to be a success. We wanted him to make more movies, which is why we all tried to go see Mallrats, even though it's not very good. And then Chasing Amy, which is fantastic, and redeemed him from the nonsense of Mallrats. And Mallrats is a good movie. It's just not Clerks. And not to go into a full diatribe of Mallrats, which I'm not, but I think the biggest mistake of Mallrats is that, for me, it doesn't star Brian O'Halloran. Like, I like Brian. I like Dante Hicks. I like Jason Lee. He's a fun guy. He's a good actor. But I like Dante better. I like the character better. I like Brian's Charlie Brown sad sack portrayal of him because it's so real. Gosh, it feels like just looking at parts of my own life. And to me, that's important. But it's fun to always, to look back on Clerks as this little tiny movie that a guy made in New Jersey using his own money. And he sold it at Sundance. And it launched his career. And we're really happy that Kevin and Scott and everybody involved in Clerks worked so hard to get that movie out, because it really is a snapshot in time of exactly what it was like to be an hourly employee at a dead-end job in that time period. so few movies are like that. Like, you look at Empire Records, and it's just a big goof. It's just a big high concept. Oh, they're going to sell the store. We got to have a big thing to save the day. Like, it's too big. It's too broad. It has fun moments. It has an amazing cast of people that they got right at the cusp of their stardom. But you know what? It ain't Clerks. And I know they were trying to do that, but it's not. It's good on its own. But it's not good when you put it up against this little tiny movie that on 1/100th of its budget outclasses it in every way because it's honest. And above all, Clerks is an honest movie. And it's weird sitting here talking about it. I just want to go watch it. I just want to put Clerks on right now and watch it. And go back in time and relive all those moments of, when you first meet Jay and Silent Bob, and how cool they are, as the resident stoners of the town. Because we all knew those guys. We all knew those guys who came in and were selling pot. I never did drugs, never bought them, but we knew those guys who did, So, as you can tell, I'm running out of voice. I'm at the 45-minute mark, which is exactly where I peter out every time. It's a shorter episode this week. Like I said, it's Scary Farm season. It's Haunt. So my goal is to get a new episode out every week, but they may be a little shorter because I can't sit down for these multiple session episodes, these Mondo episodes. But we'll get to them. As Trig told me at Haunt, man, he goes, "You're always talking about episodes you're going to do." I'm going to get to them. But maybe now is the time, because a lot of those episodes are not hour-and-a-half episodes. They're about 45 minutes, The things I hate about all that crap they play before the movies, that's 45 minutes. All the actors that I simply don't get, that's probably a longer episode. But I might break it up, I love talking about What If because it keeps me going, If I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do next, I wouldn't keep doing this 91 Reasons. But knowing that people are listening, knowing that they're enjoying them, that people from all over the world are listening, it's so gratifying to me. I so appreciate anybody who listens, anybody who downloads and thinks that what I'm saying is worth listening to. I really appreciate it. So we're going to wrap this episode by saying that don't forget our Facebook page, because a lot of the stuff I talk about, there are other materials that I put up there, items that are mentioned or people that are mentioned. You can go on there and see a picture of Roger Dole Rogers or Don Berg himself, or the Family Ties tickets that I got from that actor. Like all that fun stuff that's tangible. It really is on the Facebook page. So just search 91 Reasons on Facebook and you'll find us. I am the author of 3 books, The Sixth Key, The Lost Station, and my latest book, The Infinite Backward. They're all available on Amazon.com in either a beautiful paperback edition or as a Kindle download for only 99 cents. It's a great way to support the show. 91 Reasons comes out of my own pocket. I don't make any money off of it. I don't have any sponsors. I'm not like that. I'm doing this because I have a passion to do it. I'm not doing it to make money. I have to pay for the hosting. I have to buy all this crappy equipment that I record on. So if you want to support the show, leave us a review on iTunes, follow us on Facebook, or buy one of my books on Amazon. But hey, if you don't, that's fine too. I'm just happy you're listening. So thanks for listening. I'm working on a lot of episodes coming up. All the way through, and I've got a really cool Halloween episode I'm going to do that I think is just going to chill you to the bone, because I'm going to tell one of the most terrifying true stories of my entire life. So, chew on that. My name is Jeff Tucker, and this is 91 Reasons.
We don't need a reason for anything we feel. We don't need a reason. The castle's at the wheel. So roll this top down, hell with this town, leave our feelings behind. We don't need a reason, 'cause I got you and you got me tonight.
You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
All right, welcome back. Another episode of 91 Reasons. Listen to my voice, man. I was at Disneyland all day yesterday because, you know, nothing's better than a day off from Not Scary Farm than spending it at another gigantic theme park filled with people and strollers and screaming children. Had a good time. Really did. Actually didn't do much. The crowds were so large that I didn't actually do much. But listen to my voice, man. I should go to the theme park more often because I'm going to sound just like Doug Barnes on the season pass. His voice is so radio sounding as Doug Barnes. I can't do it. I end up sounding like Wolfman Jack if I try to do it. I don't have that cool radio voice. But you're not tuning in for the cool radio voice, right? You're tuning in for movie and film dissection and pop culture celebration. And that's what we do here on 91 Reasons. Now, I do have to say a big thank you yesterday to my friend David, who got us into the Aladdin show, which was fantastic. We had front row seats. Got to see a good friend of mine, not a good friend, but a guy I know, Scott, played Jafar. So that was really cool. I even sort of squinted and saw what part Robin played, another friend of mine, when he was in the Aladdin show. And a little bittersweet, too, only because you watch the Aladdin show and all you can think of is Robin Williams, so that's a real bummer. But the show was great, and then David also managed to get us into really great seats and quotes for World of Color, a show I said I would never wait in line for, and I'm sticking to that. I would never wait in line for a water show, but Dave was kind enough to hook up some great seats for it, so we got to see it waiting only about 15, 20 minutes instead of the 2 hours that most people wait. And I don't have the theme park patience for that, having worked at one and even worked at Disneyland very briefly. I just don't have time for that. I don't have zero patience. But Disneyland was a lot of fun. We went on Star Tours. And, Star Tours has that randomizer on it, so you never know which sequence you're going to get. And sometimes we've gotten really good sequences all in a row. And by good, I mean original trilogy. Yesterday, all we got was Kashyyyk and Coruscant. And, oh, God, was it terrible. The ride's fun and, it does what it's supposed to do. But if you're not engaged by the material itself, all the pretty wrapping paper in the world is not going to make it any better. So we also ended up getting, there's a point where they reveal who the Rebel spy is, and then there's a hologram, in quotes, that appears in the cabin. And, the Yoda one's pretty good. The Carrie Fisher one's amazing, because whoever's doing that voice really nailed Carrie Fisher's voice. But, man, we got Admiral Akbar, and he looks terrible. Whoever animated that did not work long enough. You know what he looks like? He is the animated equivalent of the Microsoft Word paperclip. The one that says, "Hey, I noticed you're writing a letter." That's the Admiral Akbar. That's what he looked like. He looked terrible. His mouth just went up and down like a puppet. Like even the one in Return of the Jedi, which is a puppet, enunciates to some degree. And if you've ever seen from Star Wars to Jedi, the making of a saga, you see the guy enunciating, no ship can penetrate it. He's working on it. This cartoon one looks like, look, we got Yoda, we got Leia done. Somebody do Akbar. You got time? Before lunch? All right, good. Johnson's got it before lunch. That's what it looked like. But you're not tuned in here for Disneyland talk, are you? That could be a whole nother episode. And isn't that what I do? Is tease whole other episodes, Jeremy? Is someday I'll get to all these episodes? Somebody who's listening to these should put together a list of all the episodes I have said I'm going to do. That way I don't miss any. And put it on the Facebook page so I can get to some of these. I got home late last night, and I was intent on watching a movie so that I could have something to talk about today. Because, during Not Scary Farm, I work really long hours, and my brain turns to mush. And it's very strange to be standing somewhere talking movies with somebody and not be able to come up with the actor, the director, the studio, the release date, whatever. Because normally I just rattle that stuff off. But I've had a lot of trouble the last couple of weeks, only because I'm not getting any sleep. I'm getting 5 hours of sleep, maybe, if I'm lucky, and then I'm right back at it. So bear with me when I say that I had to watch the movie last night just to get a refresher course. And I could have watched, I was going to catch up on Batman and do Batman Begins, but, it's so long. And I just knew I would end up falling asleep, and no one wants to hear my half-asleep review of Batman Begins, 9 years after the fact, right? No, instead, let's go all the way back to 1995. 19 years to review Kevin Smith's second directorial film, Mallrats. Now, I have to say, it's easy to pick on a movie like Batman and Robin, where it's just universally loathed, and the people who like it are looked at with strange and accusatory looks. You like what? You like Batman and Robin? What's wrong with you? Were you dropped on your head as a child? But when you talk about a movie like Mallrats, a lot of people like this movie. This is a bona fide cult classic. And by cult classic, it means when it came out in the theaters, it bombed tragically, but found a home on home video release where people could be free to watch it again and again and again, where it would gain cult-like status, where people would put on their copies of Mallrats, light candles, and chant Kevin Smith's name in hushed tones. Oh, Kevin Smith, we worship at the altar of Kevin Smith. And why do I say that? Because I've worshipped at the altar of Kevin Smith. I've seen every one of his movies. I have quoted them incessantly. But even a guy like me can look at a movie like Mallrats, and even here's the thing with Mallrats. Before we even start, and even though we're almost 7 minutes into this thing, we're going to have to say right off the bat, I'm gonna destroy this movie a bit, because it's always gotten a pass. And it's gotten a pass because we really like Clerks. And when you really like a film like Clerks, and then you make a movie like Mallrats that's constantly referencing Clerks again and again, it gets a little bit of a pass. But if you look at Walmart, the hell? See, there it is, folks. I'm really tired. If you look at Mallrats just on the basis as a standalone film, it's pretty mediocre. It's pretty bad. It's almost as bad and cloying as Empire Records. And I think Empire Records is actually better. We talked about Empire Records last show because it was the big studio answer to Clerks. Well, this is Kevin Smith's big studio answer to Clerks. And, oh, man, was I excited for this movie when it was announced. I remember I used to get Wizard magazine every month at the comic book store. And gosh, there were some issues of Wizard. This is obviously way pre-internet. This is the only way you got comic, movie, toy news. And Wizard sometimes was as big as a Sears Christmas catalog, man. It was huge. Those year-end issues of Wizard were enormous. And I love every page of Wizard. I think I still have them. I have like 30, 40, maybe more issues of Wizard tucked in the closet that I just can't let go of because I can remember carting them around to work and reading them incessantly over and over again. And in one issue of Wizard, there was an ad for Mallrats, coming soon, Mallrats. And it was just Jay and Silent Bob with one of those 3D magic eye pictures as the ad. So if you squinted at it long enough, the Mallrats logo appeared in 3D. And you know what? This was really cool marketing. Because you had to know who the characters were, want to spend time with them on the page, because you had to stare at that thing, no matter, depending on how good you were at the magic eye, you had to stare at that thing for quite a while to get it to work. And when it worked, it was really cool because it was the logo of the movie in 3D. 3D before Avatar. But we saw the ad for Mallrats, and we knew it was coming. And the nerd stuff covered it not in depth, but at least pretty well to know that, hey, Kevin Smith, that guy that made that weird black and white movie, yeah, he's got a new one coming out next year, 95, this year. It's coming out in October. And it's got Jay and Silent Bob in it again? Oh, this is going to be great. And I think that the trailer even showed Brian O'Halloran, who was playing Gil Hicks. Of course, we didn't know that at the time. So I'll be honest. This is one of those things where Mallrats upset me because I was reviewing the movie I wanted and not the movie that I got. Because I wanted a sequel to Clerks. I wanted the same kind of pop culture analysis by Dante and Randall. And maybe what I wanted was the same movie. Maybe I wanted Clerks at the mall because I worked at the mall and I knew what it was like to be there all day, every day, and to watch the Mallrats who had no lives, who were just at the mall to hang out. So this was different because this was the other side. In Clerks, the retailers are the good guys and the customers are the a-holes. You can't believe the barrage of stupid questions I get here. What do you mean there's no ice? I got to drink this coffee hot? And in Mallrats, Kevin flipped the script so that the retailers, in the form of Ben Affleck from Fashionably Male, are the bad guys, and the customers, or the people who inhabit the mall, because they're not customers, they don't buy anything, they're the good guys. And so right away it's different. Now, my main beef against Mallrats is that Brody and T.S., the two main characters, Jeremy London and Jason Lee, they're not different. They're the same guy. Watch Mallrats now and notice that each of them spews out the long-winded Kevin Smith dialogue almost the same exact way. It's wry pop culture reference, tearing things apart. Oh, a wry pop culture reference response, tearing things apart. Ooh, let's try to advance the story. And the thing with I just bumped the microphone again for those of you keeping score. Is it a drinking game yet? The problem is that let's start at the beginning, right? Mallrats opens with T.S. about to pick up Brandy to go to Universal Studios, and we eventually find out he's going to propose to her on the Jaws attraction. I have no idea where any of this came from. It's all very strange, and the movie's set up fairly quickly because right away they reference Clerks and they reference Julie Dwyer, who Randall and Dante attempt to go to her funeral and knock her body out. So this is the day before. This takes place the day before the events of Clerks because she's been announced as dead this morning or yesterday. And the reason she's dead is swimming. But for the plot of the movie, the reason she's dead is so that Brandy will have to now fill in on the dating show at the finale of the film. And also so that she can't go on the Florida vacation. Now, it's all fairly quickly. Like, he shows up, they argue, she breaks up with him, and it's over really quick. And then they cut to Jason Lee's character in bed with Shannon Doherty. And I know this is going to upset people, and I'm sorry. I don't like Jason Lee in this movie at all. I know when the movie came out, he was the only one who really emerged unscathed because he wasn't an actor prior to this, and Kevin's dialogue is sometimes pretty difficult to get through. But the thing that I don't like about him is that, first off, he's not likable. He's not likable. Anybody who was a slacker in the early 90s, and I was before I got married. By the time Mallrats came out, I was already married. But before, if you were a guy who collected comics and there was a girl who was willing to climb through your window to have sex with you, you would treat her really well. Those are really hard to find. Those are harder to find than a carded yak face. Thank you very much. nerd reference. So the idea that he's just so blasé about her and wakes up and goes right back to playing hockey on his Sega and basically ignores anything she has to say. I know that that's the plot of the movie, that he's going to somehow see the error of his ways and become a different person. Now, that never really happens in this movie, other than the symbol of that is him introducing Shannon Doherty's character to his mother. But other than that, Jason Lee's character starts out the movie as this kind of spoiled comic reading guy, and in the end, he's not changed. He's not changed at all. Now, I think the entirety of Mallrats would have been better if they'd been teenagers. You know, it's teenagers that hang out at the mall. You know, when you hit your 20s, the mall's not really the place you want to be, because you're only at the mall as a teenager because there's really nowhere else to go. You know, that's where the arcade is. That's where the music store is. That's where the food court is. And as a teenager, your options are fairly limited as to where you can hang out without getting hassled. You know, if there's a big group of kids at the park, you're going to get hassled by the cops. So the mall is relatively hassle-free except for security. But if you're in your 20s, you can go to a bar. You can go to a strip club. The options of the world are virtually limitless once you reach 21. So Mallrats to me is just like, well, why are they going to the mall? I know that's the name of the movie. It's Mallrats. But they're 20-something guys. They should be a better place to hang out, a more... the mall's for kids. I guess that's what I'm saying. You know, after age 17, I don't hang out at the mall. You go to the mall to get what you need, and you go somewhere you really want to go. So if they had been teenagers, now I know they can't be teenagers because the movie's really dirty, and we wouldn't be ready for really dirty teen movies in the 90s until 99 in American Pie. Before American Pie, teenage movies had been reduced to She's All That and Empire Records and really homogenized, squeaky clean, you know, Can't Hardly Wait, really squeaky clean, who will she pick movies. And there weren't a lot of nudity and dirty, you know, when he has relations with the pie, it sort of signaled that the teen movie had come back. And we're going to make these dirty movies. Now, I didn't know when American Pie came out that we would go down this road where it was just going to be an endless stream of male nudity and trying to outgross, not box office, but gross out, you know, nudity and body fluids. Like, that's just not my thing. You know, if American Pie were made today, he would have relations with the pie, and then the next scene would be everybody sitting down to enjoy a slice, if you know what I mean. And there'd be close-ups of people eating the pie. Oh yeah, oh it's terrible, and the audience would cringe, and that would be the movie, because that's how far we've gone. You know, in American Pie, it's innocent to some degree. Eugene Levy says, "We'll tell your mom we ate the pie," and they throw it out. They wouldn't do that now, absolutely not. But back in '95. You know, the movies like that weren't around. We're 4 years away from it. So in order to do, you know, the very brief topless scene or the implied sex scene in the elevator or just the terrible the use of language in it, they got to be 20-somethings in order for the studio to feel comfortable releasing it and for the MPAA to give it an R. So the tone of the movie is all over the place because we've got 20-somethings hanging out at the mall, and everybody talks the same. That's the one real issue I have with this movie, is that in Clerks, Dante Hicks is an uptight, by-the-book rules guy who finally takes a chance on Caitlin, and the universe smacks him down so hard. And Randall is the carefree, happy-go-lucky guy who does whatever he wants, and in the end, by doing that, ruins his friend's future. And they both learn a lesson and see things a little differently. In Mallrats, everybody spews the same pop culture reference jargon, long-winded speeches over and over and over again. Ben Affleck's character has these really, his mouth is just full of, I don't respect anybody without a shopping agenda, and it's really strange. And the other thing that Mallrats really suffers from is that they cut out like 20 minutes at the beginning. There's a whole new beginning where Brandy's dad, Mr. Svennings, is throwing a party for the governor, and there's people in costume, and T.S. accidentally fires off a shot from his musket, and everybody gets in trouble. And that makes, that the whole movie makes sense if you know this, because it makes sense for Jay to call him a killer, and it makes sense for Svenning to hate him so much, because what do fathers hate most? Guys with no idea for the future, no prospects, and they're only looking at the daughter for one thing. Now, that's not the case in this movie. At the beginning, T.S.'s intention is to marry her. He's not trying to score with the prom queen on the big night. He's not like got a notch on his bedpost like, that's the girl I'm going to get. No. He wants to marry her. What father would be upset with that? You want to marry my daughter? Are you serious? That's a noble thing. So he hates him because of the governor's ball being sabotaged. And it also explains why, for no apparent reason in the movie, when you call the cops, they arrest people just for hanging out at the mall. T.S. and Brody are just arrested for no reason. The cops are called, they show up, security is running after them. Like, it doesn't make any sense unless this is the guy that tried to kill the governor the night before. Then he's a known criminal, he's a known suspect. We got to keep an eye on this guy. So it suffers from it. But you know why they cut it. You can't make a movie called Mallrats and then not get to the mall until 30 minutes in. Then people are like, well, are they ever going to get to the mall? That's why in Jurassic Park, you see the, I'm going to say Brontosaurus, but I know the name's been changed to Brachiosaurus. When I was a kid, they were Brontosauruses. So like Pluto being a planet, they remain Brontosauruses to me. Sorry. But that's why they show you those dinosaurs right when they get to the island. Because if they had waited till the tour, we would have all been like Ian Malcolm by saying, are there going to be any dinosaurs on your dinosaur tour? So if you name a movie a certain thing, you got to get to it. You got to get to it. Unless you're doing a movie like say Music Box, which I'm sure nobody in this audience has seen, which is about a guy being tried for Nazi war crimes. And the Music Box in question doesn't even show up till the last 6 or 7 minutes of the movie, But it was written by Joe Esterhaus, so I had to go see Music Box, because at the time I was a Joe Esterhaus fan. Not so much anymore. But at the time, the guy was the highest paid screenwriter in the world, so his movies you paid attention to, especially if you were a writer. But Mallrats continues. They go to the mall. I'm trying to breeze through the plot. I mean, if you are listening to this podcast, you know the plot, so it's not doing you any service by encapsulating the movie again and again, right? But here's the reasons I don't dig it, and then you can just rattle them off. First off, what the hell happened to Jay and Silent Bob? Why is this movie a cartoon? It's just a goofy, silly cartoon movie, and Jay and Silent Bob are like front and center of the reasons, especially Jay. This is, I said it in the beginning, this is the big studio version of Clerks. And the fact that the guy who made Clerks is at the helm makes it even sadder, because watch Jay in the movie. Like, who is that? In the first film, Jay's understated. He says some funny stuff. He invites Dante to go get high and then yells at him when he's rebuffed. In this one, he's reduced to just catchphrases. Snoochies, boochies. And I don't know if... Well, I know that there was some contention that maybe Jay Muse shouldn't play Jay, which is stupid, and they were going to hire somebody else. But thankfully, that didn't happen. But why is he directed to be this cartoon character, this one-liner spouting caricature of the guy from the first movie. If they're indeed the same characters, why would you do that? And then they keep showing blueprints of how they're going to sabotage the dating show at the mall, and I don't know what we're looking at. I don't know why it's in there. And Silent Bob swinging through the mall, fly, fat ass fly. Here's the thing. This is the big thing about Mallrats. We like it because it has all these people we know in it, and it keeps referencing Clerks. And we give Kevin Smith a pass because we knew watching it, we were going to watch it again and again and again. And I'm guilty of that. I've watched the movie 30, 40 times. I just watched it last night on my anniversary edition signed by Kevin Smith that my friend Romo got me. Thank you. He bought it at the stash even. But the movie gets a pass because movies that are familiar to us don't fall under the microscope. But just look at the direction of this movie. And there's a moment where, Brody is going to the mall to lick his wounds, but also to get comics, right? So we know there's going to be a comic shop in the mall. And the scene where they finally get to the comic shop, Brody says, what's going on? Why can't I buy comics? And then he's shown having a scuffle with Walt and Steve Dave. And it's all very funny and very familiar because we like everybody. But there's no direction to the scene. He says, why can't I get comics? But then they don't show us until a few beats later that there's a line in front of the store. And the way that movies are supposed to be directed, you show the character walking up and then the conflict of why he can't get in and then the reaction. Instead, we got the reaction and then a few beats later, much longer than you should, the reason why he can't get in is that Stanley is signing and that there's a line. But it's all done really weird. And I think that it's not Kevin Smith's fault. It's the fact that this was, at $6 million, a really low-budget movie. Even for the time, that's low budget. And I don't think they had extras. I don't think they had a lot of extras. Because if you look at the scenes in the outside world that aren't in the mall, there's nobody. It's almost as if there's been an apocalypse. They drive the streets and there's nobody. They park in the parking lot and there's nobody. And I know that the mall that they filmed at, I think, was out of business. So everything they had to do, they had to populate themselves. And that's a huge undertaking for a low-budget movie. So they did the best that they could. But the world still looks, pretty empty. There's a similar problem in a movie called Sex and Death 101 that stars Winona Ryder by Daniel Waters, the guy who wrote Heathers, where you can tell that the poor guy had one street of a set to work on in some back lot. So they just keep doing the same over and over and over from different angles. And Mallrats suffers a little bit from that too. Like, you can tell that they didn't have the whole mall. They only had a few select shops. Now the music shop behind the Trish the Dish scene looks fairly legit. So maybe the mall was partially open and they were lucky on a few of those shots. Because like the hairdresser shop and the music shop look open. But, the rug shop and the cookie shop, even the pet shop, they don't look like they're open for business. They look like movie sets without enough money. But that's not Kevin's fault. He did the best he could with the budget he was given. And him and Mosier, they probably worked their butts off on this movie. They probably lived at that mall. And you know what? In 1995, if someone said they were going to give me $6 million to make a movie, I'd have made a movie just like Mallrats. So I'm not saying I hate this movie. I'm just saying that when you look at it with new eyes, it does have a lot of problems, a lot of just weirdness to it. God, I just hate what they did to Jay in this movie. And to some degree, Kevin Smith, Silent Bob's character becomes this I don't know, almost silent movie actor where he's very, his face has big expressions and he's like this lovable drug dealer. I don't know. Like Jay and Silent Bob are drug dealers. That's not glossed over because at the end, Jay gets rid of the contestants on the dating show by giving them drugs. And yet they're portrayed as like these Rosencrantz and Guildenstein of the mall. We're like, well, we're going to bumble our way through another adventure. Well, they're drug dealers. They're drug dealers. I don't like what they did with Willem. You know, I know that Willem in the first movie, Snowball and Clerks, becomes the guy who can't see the 3D picture of the sailboat, and that's the whole plot of what he does. And that's one of those things that it was funny for a couple of scenes, but like by the end of 90 minutes, you're just let him see the stupid sailboat. And I know that that's the plot. Like he's going to knock the railing that knocks the tape that lived in the house that Jack built. I get all that. I get it because I know how scripts are put together. I've written a few myself. But it just comes like that's it. His whole story arc is he didn't see the sailboat, and then he doesn't even see it. Maybe if he knocked his head, knocked the tape, and then looked over and said, I see it. I see the sailboat. I knocked myself in the head. And then they reveal he's really looking at a sailboat. Like there's a sailboat in the mall that's like win me with a entry form box. Maybe that would have been different, you know, but they don't have that kind of money. And some of the editing is real choppy, like I said. The scenes between T.S. and Brandy in the beginning that are intercut with her dad naked doing kung fu. Like, it doesn't make any sense. I know it sets up that he's out of balance and you're not supposed to like him because he's doing naked kung fu for some reason. But it just, editing-wise, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, all of a sudden, we're seeing something else entirely. And, you know, the Ben Affleck character hates Brody because he has no shopping agenda and wants to beat him up the whole movie. Like, I know you got to have a bully. You got to have a Biff. And Affleck's a great Biff, especially because this is really early in his career, and he's kind of doughy, and he's really imposing in size. But they're never shown, like, why he hates him so much other than in dialogue, I don't like people without a shopping agenda. Well, that's it? Well, you could beat up anybody in the movie. The movie's called Mallrats. No one has a shopping agenda. And some of the other stuff's just weird. The scene that's pretty funny where Brody's talking about where to put your arm when you're spooning. Like, and then the clerk says, you know, I know how he feels. That's all pretty funny, except he talks about the wrong arm. If you're spooning somebody, the arm on top is fairly comfortable. It's the arm on bottom that falls asleep and that you need a place for it to go. And why even now they make beds with a slit so you can stick your arm in it. I'm not kidding. Look it up on Google, Jeremy. They make a slit so you can put your arm in it so that it doesn't fall asleep. So that scene's a little wonky in that you're like, well, isn't he talking about the other arm? And then it's over. So you're moved on to something else, right? But the Tristed Dish sequence, like, I know why it's there for the plot. I know that she's going to have sex with all these guys and tape that so that we can use the tape later. But why would a girl on a book research project with the full blessing of her parents, knowing she has to have sex with all these men from some age to some age, suddenly having sex with Affleck is illegal? Like, isn't there a waiver or something? Like, it's just really weird because everybody's talking about having sex with her. And anybody that has sex with the 15-year-old schoolgirl should go to jail. Everybody. Not just the one guy that we hate in the movie. So all of it's really sloppy writing. Like, we're told to believe something because we're told, and that's the way it's going to be. Even if we try to argue, like, well, that's not really logical. No, that's the movie. That's the movie we're making. Okay. And I've already said I don't really care for Jason Lee's character in it. I don't care for Jeremy London's character in it. Watch the end of the movie where he's on the dating show with her, and this is finally his one shot to make up with her. And it's really badly directed, too, because we only get a one shot of Brandy and a one shot of T.S. We never get the full shot of the game show while they're talking, and it's really like, this must have been filmed on different days or something. But watch how he talks to her. Like, he's never apologetic. He just yells at her, you shouldn't let your father dictate when you're going to break up with your boyfriend, like all this stuff. And it's like, well, what girl would respond to that? Me, the audience member, as a guy, I'm not responding to it. So the woman in question should just get up and go, look, dude, you're yelling at me because I broke up with you and somehow that's not what you would have done. So I'm supposed to, I take you back and we'll get married on the Jaws attraction. It's so illogical. He's such a jerk. From opening scene to end scene, he never changes. In fact, he even gets worse. Like, he's a big jerk. And the thing with Brody's character is that we sort of get the idea that Shannon Doherty's character likes that he's a jerk, because the meaner he is to people, the bigger her smile. And I'm not sure what that says about her. Like, this poor guy Gil, Brian, that we really like from Clerks, and he's playing, I think, Dante's cousin or something, somebody named Hicks. He's a brother, a cousin or something. And he's saying nice things to her. And the nicer he is, the more mean Brody is to him. And I know as the audience, we're supposed to be on Brody's side because we've spent the whole movie with him. And this other guy is being very flowery and very complimentary and everything that we're not supposed to be into because we're Brody, we're the audience. But Brody comes off as just a bully. He just tells this guy, shut the F up, over and over again. And it's like, well, this is how the game is played, dude. I don't know what's going on and why you're so angry. Why is Brody so angry at everybody? I have no problem with angry characters in movies. They're usually pretty funny, but they're always tempered by other characters around them that are semi-normal. And we're also rarely asked to identify with the really angry guy. Everybody in Fight Club is angry, but they have moments where they step back and go, this is why we're doing this. We're going to fight each other because we have no purpose, because we were raised by single moms, and we're angry at the system for allowing our fathers to walk out on us and do this to us and create a whole generation of men with no direction. But Brody's just angry because he's Brody. He yells because they don't have boards in the comic bags. He yells because he needs free soda at the mall. Like, what's going on? What is this? And the scene that everybody remembers from Mallrats is the stink palm scene. And it is funny. The stink palm scene is funny. But watch the movie today and see how long it goes on for. That stink palm sequence is the whole end of the movie. From the moment he stink palms Svenning is sick and grotesque the rest of the movie. And it's like, gross out stuff like that should be hit and miss. And again, I know from the mechanics of the script that we need to take Svenning out so that when T.S. and Brody take over the dating show, he can't just get up and stop it. Because if it was Svenning normal, he would just get up and throw them out. But because he's incapacitated from vomiting, he can't get up and stop them. So I get why these things happen. But maybe the problem is that they're just not good enough. There needs to be raise the stakes, better things to do. And even if they did raise the stakes or come up with more ingenious ways of sabotage, we don't care. Or at least I don't care, because I don't like these characters. I like Dante because we've all been forced to go to work on a day that we don't want to go. But these guys are just at the mall to cause trouble for everybody. And I guess maybe I was just too old. And isn't that sad at 23, 24, too old for a movie like Mallrats? Because they're just not likable guys. They're abusing everything in the mall. Even Joey Lauren Adams' character at one point is trying on underwear over and over again. And the person in me simply said, I hope she's going to buy those because that's really unsanitary to put those back on the shelf. Now, as a guy, I enjoy that scene. She's very good looking, she's incredibly uber sickly thin, but she's very hot in it, and she's trying on underwear and looking at her own butt. I mean, that's very sexy. We get to see her topless, and you can see why Kevin fell for her and had to write his next movie for her. Like, we get all that. And she's got that cute little baby voice. You know, we all like that. But if all you're thinking of is, oh my God, that's unsanitary, then you're out of the movie. And I'm out of the movie. I'm out of the mall. That's a bummer. I don't want to be out of the mall. And they do go out of the mall. They do go to the Dirt Mall, which is the flea market. And there's a really neat scene where TS tries on a Clerks production hat. And that's, you know, that's for us, the fans. There's a whole lot of gimmies for the fans. And Kevin's really good about that. And that's, again, that's why this movie has a following. You know, because it's connected to Clerks. It's connected to the View Askew universe. So it gets to be included. Like, hey, Clerks, get in. Hey, Chasing Amy, get in here. And Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, get in the car. Clerks 2, right over here. Mallrats. Come on, Mallrats. Yes, you're part of it too. No, come on, hurry up. That's what it is. It gets dragged along. And it doesn't fit the rest of the movies. The tone is all over the place. It has that weird American Graffiti wrap-up where we get to know the fates of all of our characters. And we get to see poor Ben Affleck, who's been trying to anally rape most of the women in this movie. He gets to have his own version in prison. Like, it's really weird. Like, what did he do so bad? Except try to woo a girl and have sex with her. I mean, that's what 20-something guys do, right? But he's the bad guy because he represents the mall and the authority at the mall because he works for a living. How does Brody get all those comics? I know his mom's paying for rent at the house and he's got a Sega system, but who buys all those comics? I bought a lot of comics in the early 90s. Man, did I buy a lot of comics. I bought so many comics that I recognized every comic artist in the opening credits because I bought all their work. Mike Allred, J. Scott Campbell. Oh, man, did I love me some J. Scott Campbell. And when they show Joey Lauren Adams in the Gen 13 costume, I prayed that was in the movie. Oh, can we put her in a Fairchild costume from Gen 13, please? Can we? No, sorry. It's just the credits. Oh, bummer. Oh, well. And we get a really fun cameo from Stan Lee, who is the moral center of this movie and the only sane voice anywhere. And he tells, come on, true believers. He tells him the story, and Brody is supposed to glean some insight from it and stop talking about superhero genitalia, which is fun because, a lot of people want to ask Stan those kind of questions, and he politely rebuffs them, which is really nice. And it is great to have a guy like that in this movie. But the rest of it, not so much. Not so much. I don't understand the topless psychic scene. I know it's in there to get some more nudity in the movie to ensure that R rating because maybe the language wasn't salty enough. And, it is. And what's interesting is that the salty language in Clerks seems fairly organic. And the salty language in Mallrats, God, it's all so forced. And it's all so forced because a lot of it comes out of just anger. Again, Brody's an angry guy all the way through this movie. And he's almost the archetype of every character Adam Sandler has played. Like, if they had made Mallrats a few years later, Adam Sandler would have played that part. Because Adam Sandler only plays guys who are silent or full of murderous rage. And that's Brody. Like, he's just angry. He screams the F word. What the F is this? And I don't identify with people like that. I don't like to be around people like that. So 90 minutes in a movie trapped with that guy is more than enough for me. And when he has sex with her in the elevator, you just want to say, like, well, what's going on here? Who's right and who's wrong? What kind of signals is she sending out? She's going to have sex with him in the elevator, but she still broke up with him. She hates him. She loves him. Like, everybody deserves all of the misery that they bring upon themselves in this movie. It doesn't make any sense. And I know it's not supposed to. I know in the end, as we wrap up this episode, that Mallrats is supposed to be this fun romp through the mall during the day where the Easter Bunny gets savagely beaten and Willem, who can't see the sailboat, destroys the poor salesman's kiosk, and we bang on the glass at poor kittens who are actually shown like responding to it. But it's just a romp because it's tempered with scenes where Jay and Silent Bob use Batman's gun to grapple themselves into the air, or he flies through the air as Batman and bursts through the wall of the store again and again. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And again, look, I'm the one in the wrong here because I know that a lot of people really like this movie, and it bothers me to sit for nearly an hour and tear it apart. But that's film, man. That's film. You know, watch Heathers. Heathers is a fantastic movie, and it's very well directed. And Michael Lehman, after Heathers, was brought into the studio the way Kevin Smith was brought into the studio system, and it was like, what movie are we going to do next? Kevin Smith thankfully picked a script he wrote. You know, he picked Mallrats. Michael Lehman was given Hudson Hawk, and we know how that turned out. God, that's a terrible movie. Badly directed, badly edited, badly acted. So at least when Kevin made the jump into the studio system, he didn't bite off more than he could chew. You know, a $6 million movie set in a single, for the most part, location, you could handle that. Yeah, the tone's all over the place, but the movie's called Mallrats, and showing a movie about people doing nothing in a mall, at that, it succeeds. It really does. But I do have a question for you. If the goal of T.S., Brody, and Jay and Silent Bob was to pull the pin so that the set would fall, were they worried about killing anybody? Were they worried about killing anybody? That I have to ask. And why does Priscilla Barnes, who already ruined License to Kill, Sanchez, right? Why does she eat the nipple that she pulls off of her? I don't understand. Is it like it's gummy, like she has 100 in a box? Like, is it gum? Like, I don't know. It makes zero sense other than it's just weird for weird sake. And I'm a fan of that, don't get me wrong. But in this case, I have no idea. I know that for whatever reason, she's fulfilling the Silent Bob part because she's the one who stops and gives them the advice they need to hear so that they can then go and make the right decision. And in Clerks, it's Silent Bob who does that. Of course, it's too late in Clerks. But in Mallrats, she's the one. It doesn't make any sense. I have no idea. And why it's Priscilla Barnes, I have no idea. Maybe, you know, we all watched Three's Company, and maybe Kevin had like a moment where it was like, we can hire this woman to be topless from Three's Company? Oh, we're all about it. You know, and if that's the case, it should have been Joyce DeWitt, if you know what I'm saying. Anywho, I think I've trashed it enough. I'm sorry if I upset you, because I know I just talked to somebody about doing this, and Jeremy said, one of the listeners said, but I like that movie. I grew up on it, and, you know, I'm sorry. We have to talk about what we have to talk about. The good news is just like the public did to Kevin Smith, when we talk about his next film, it's going to be much better. Because whatever lessons he learned on Mallrats and whatever doors Clerks opened that Mallrats then closed, when he delivered Chasing Amy, he decided to make a movie much more personable, much more personal, and still in the comics and pop culture realm, but a more mature film. And Chasing Amy is a fantastic movie, and I'm going to watch it and get a refresher course before I start talking about it. That way I know what I'm doing. But, you know, God bless Brian O'Halloran for playing Gil, because it's a thankless part. Where's Jeff Anderson? I don't know. I've listened to the commentary a few years back from Mallrats. I watched all the deleted stuff. So, you know, I enjoy these movies, and I enjoy immersing myself in the View Askew-niverse. I really do. But I'm not sure where Jeff Anderson was, if they offered him a cameo and he turned it down or whatever. Maybe he was the smart one. Maybe he was like, look, that's not my thing. I don't want to be in that. But Brian Dante, he wants to be an actor. He wants to be in these movies. He ended up making Vulgar, a story about the View Askew clown logo, which I actually kind of enjoyed, as sick as it is, and it is sick. But hey, Mallrats, maybe I've inspired you to go watch it, and in that case, I've done my job. If I've inspired you to unsubscribe, I'm so sorry, but we have to be honest. I have to tell you what I think of these movies. And like I said, for a movie like Batman and Robin or Attack of the Clones, everybody's nodding. Yes, it's terrible. Yes. Mallrats, not so much. A lot of people really enjoy this movie. I know Adrian Romo, who just finished his shower, is very angry with me. Not only because he likes this movie and he once came to my house dressed as Willem with the soda and the lunch bag, but he's the guy that bought me this movie when it was really hard to find. So I'm sorry, but that's 91 Reasons, We're a no-holds-barred look at pop culture. Whether you like it or love it, we're going to talk about it. And as you can see and hear, my voice is disintegrating after Halloween Haunt and Disneyland and talking for nearly an hour after being up all night watching this movie. I'm going to go die. I am Jeff Tucker. I am the voice you hear. We want to thank you for listening. Subscribe to us on iTunes. That's the best way to support the show. Tell your friends. Leave a review. Tell us how much you love it or hate it. It's all good. I am the author of 3 books, The Sixth Key, The Lost Station, and my latest book, The Infinite Backward, all available on Amazon.com in either a beautiful paperback version. And you know what, Jeremy? I'm sorry I forgot to sign your copy at Halloween Haunt. We just got so busy doing the season pass. But you can also get my books as a Kindle download for a mere 99 cents. It's the deal of the day. They are a series. They are 1, 2, and 3. They continue a single story. Book 4 I'm working on right now. The Ice Temple will be out next year sometime. And I'm very excited about that because I love my books and I love my characters. But I also love this podcast and I love talking about pop culture. And we're going to keep doing it again and again and again. Forever. Well, not forever. But for a long time. Because I enjoy this. And I got lots more to talk about. So the next episode, who knows? We could talk about Chasing Amy. We could talk about Batman Begins. We could talk about something completely different. It all depends on what the heck is going on in my life at the time. So thanks for listening. And this is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening? You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
All right, we are here. We are back with another episode of 91 Reasons. Continuing the downward spiral of my voice as Not Scary Farm Halloween Haunt continues. Now, I have had a few days off, but I've not been feeling well. Haunt, if anybody who's ever worked Haunt, it's Not Scary Farm. It's this big annual event we have here in Buena Park where the entirety of Knott's Berry Farm is transformed into a Halloween event. Those of us who work it, it becomes a lifestyle. And the lifestyle is you don't see your family. All you see are people at Knott's Berry Farm and your bed. So I'm in a cycle of working 13, 14-hour days. I'm sure you've heard this before. So my voice continues to spiral out. But the worst part was I got a sore throat starting about Saturday night. And I wanted to push this episode as far into the week as I could to try to alleviate that. So I'm doing better. Thanks for asking. Thanks for all your cards and letters of an illness you didn't know I had. It's fantastic. But I feel better. I feel fine. And I was up late last night into the wee hours of the morning, which are now to me just regular hours of the morning, of the day, of the work day, watching Chasing Amy, Kevin Smith's third film, and my favorite film that he's done next to Clerks. I'll always be a Clerks fan just because of the raw geekiness and nerdiness and the authenticity of it. Because, like I said in that podcast, if you worked retail, that's your movie, because nobody ever made a movie about what it was like to be at a dead-end job and having to deal with people who wanted you to care more than you ever could for ringing them up for their stupid little purchases. But Chasing Amy represents Kevin Smith's most adult work. And watching it last night, I was struck by how personal it is and how different it is from his other movies. From the first two, most assuredly. Even though Clerks is anchored by Randall and Dante, it's still a series of misadventures that are just vaguely connected because that's where they work. When I was in high school, I wanted to be a writer, so I decided to start writing. The first thing I wrote was a one-act play called Party Line, about three guys who are trying to call somebody and end up with the wires crossed. God, isn't that weird how a concept like the party line, which was such a thing in the 80s, like if you got stuck on the party line, and the party line meant that there could be 3, 10, 100 people all talking at the same time, and it was just like this magic moment of, oh my God, it's a party line. There's a bunch of people on here. And you talk to all these people, just scream at it, like trying to make a connection with somebody and you didn't know where they were or who they were. It was really funny. That would never happen today. You know, it was one of the casualties of progress was the party line. But the party line was the first thing I ever really sat down and wrote. And it's weird because when I sat down to write a one-act play, I thought, I'll just write a bunch of action because I won't have to write a bunch of dialogue that way. And it turned out I wrote a play where the three characters remained stationary, and for 25 minutes it was just dialogue. We took it to a festival, and I got some really good reviews. And I think that first experience getting positive reviews on something I had written really encouraged me to keep going. And what I mean by this thread here is the second thing that I wrote, this monster 3-act play that we performed in my senior year of high school, was this massive play called Business as Usual, where it's two guys who run a mortuary, and all these characters keep coming in, and you know what? It shares a lot of ideology with Clerks, because instead of writing multiple scenes using the same characters, my play Business as Usual was the setting stayed the same, the two main characters stayed the same, but somebody would enter, they'd have a funny scene, they would leave, and then somebody else would enter, they'd have a funny scene, and they would leave. And that's what Clerks is, right? And it's also what Mallrats is. Even though they make an excursion outside briefly, the location stays the same, and it's just a series of wacky misadventures around a theme of this is the place where we like to go, whether it be a convenience store or a mall. Chasing Amy shows that Kevin Smith is growing as a filmmaker. And you know what? Thank God Mallrats bombed at the box office. Because if Mallrats had been a big hit, then Smith would have probably been stuck in a cookie-cutter filmmaking career of, this is the guy that makes the dirty, wacky comedies with all the harsh language. And that's all it would have been. Mallrats would have begat Mallrats 2, the food court strikes back or whatever. But instead, Mallrats bombed. So what did Kevin do? He went back to the drawing board and he said, "Wait a minute. If I'm going to have a career in film, I got to come up with something personal." And it's strange, like if you compare it to the trajectory of bigger filmmakers, and there's nobody bigger, arguably, than Steven Spielberg. Spielberg had a monster hit with Jaws and was greenlit to do whatever movie he wanted. Did Close Encounters, which is a stellar movie. It's weird. My mom took me to Close Encounters at the drive-in, and she left. I never saw it complete when I was a kid. She left, and only discovered it later on home video. And had heard all the years how awful it was and how it didn't make any sense. And oh my gosh, it's a masterpiece of what it could really be like to have aliens visit the Earth. You know, it's Close Encounters is amazing. But look at what happened after Close Encounters. I was too young. I don't know what was going on. I certainly don't know Steven Spielberg. But did he just get cocky? Did he think that anything he made was going to be gold? Because you forget that between Close Encounters and Raiders of the Lost Ark, that he made 1941. And 1941, I tried to watch it just a month ago. I thought, you know what? This can't be as bad as I remembered. I know it's silly, but it can't be as awful. You know what? I turned it off. I was bored to tears. It's too long. It's too boring. There are too many characters. I don't care about them. If you don't buy into the initial conceit of what Los Angeles was like at the height of World War II, then you don't get it. And you know what? I didn't get it. An expensive mess of a movie written by my heroes, Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. It derailed their careers as well. But what Spielberg did, and this is the same thing that Kevin Smith did after Mallrats, is he said, look, to keep my career going, I'm going to have to deliver something personal, something amazing, something great, on budget, under budget, on time, under time. And what we got was, from Steven Spielberg, Raiders of the Lost Ark. A movie made for nothing. Look at the budget of Raiders. I bet it was under $20 million. I don't have the number offhand, but I bet it was under $20 million. And it sure don't look like it. Raiders looks like a really expensive movie. Well done, on location, beautiful sets, fantastic story, everything done right. And it's because 1941 bombed. And because Mallrats bombed, Kevin Smith said, whoa, I can't just make a movie about dick jokes. There's got to be something more to it. And sure, Chasing Amy has plenty of that, and plenty of the harsh, coarse language that Smith is famous for. But how Chasing Amy differs from Mallrats and Clerks is that Chasing Amy features three main characters in a variety of locations, and we keep doubling back with these characters again and again and again, so much so that just like any stellar, well-done movie, when another character appears in the scene that's not Holden, Banky, or Alyssa, we know something's up. We're going to get more information, and we better hang on and pay attention. Now, Chasing Amy came out 1997, and it was only in a really small handful of theaters. After the debacle of Mallrats, nobody was going to give Kevin Smith a wide release on a movie. So they platformed it out to just a couple of theaters, and as it did really well in those couple of theaters, it blossomed out across the country, you know, in classic independent movie way. And it really is an independent movie, financed for what, under $300,000. A marvel of low budget, personal filmmaking. And I didn't see it upon its initial release because it didn't play anywhere. It was hard to find, you know. And living in Orange County at the time, to go up to LA to see a movie, I mean, that's a lot of work for an hour and a half movie. So I didn't do it very often. I still don't do it very often. Thankfully, with megaplexes, usually you can find a movie that you want. I'm hoping to find Birdman on Friday, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think that it's going to be in only a handful of theaters, and I'm going to wait for the rollout. Now, when they finally did roll out Chasing Amy, it still didn't play near me. So I had to wait till it came out on VHS in 98, you know, the latter part of 98 to see it. Now, it's weird because at the time I was a fan of Clerks, sort of a fan of Mallrats, but we hadn't really created in the fandom the View Askew universe, or the View Askew universe as it's called, where all these characters are intertwined and it pays to pay attention. So when I put in Chasing Amy, it's just Kevin Smith's third movie. And you know what? There are tons of Clerks and Mallrats references, but you have to really pay attention to get them, because instead of being a wink wink, hey, aren't we clever making references to other movies, instead what Chasing Amy is a really touching, personal, ultra uber 90s love story. And you're just struck by how real it is and how fresh it is. If you travel back in time to when this movie came out in 97 and then in 98 for the VHS, and then it was one of the big DVD purchases I made when I got my DVD player. I got my DVD player in 99. I paid $300 and something for it, and every DVD was $30. And that trend continued for a couple of years. So when I bought Chasing Amy on DVD, and it was just the Laserdisc port over from the Criterion, I think it was like $30-$40. But it was like, okay, Kevin's going to keep making these movies. I'm going to keep buying them, and it's going to be another collection, you know, the Star Wars collection, the Back to the Future trilogy. All my John Hughes movies, Kevin Smith movies are going to be right there. Steven Spielberg, you know. So it was a big deal to purchase that on DVD when, gosh, DVDs were so expensive. But look at the time frame that it came out, 97, and look at what it's talking about. This is the story of Holden and his friend Banky, who draw a comic book called Blunt Man and Chronic, which is this stoner version of Batman and Robin. And they go about their day-to-day business, and they're very successful. And Chasing Amy opens on what might be, I can't think of another instance, the first Comic-Con, comic book convention in a movie. I can't recall ever seeing a comic book convention in a movie before Chasing Amy. And I remember watching it being really excited, like, oh, they're gonna show a part of the culture that's just for me. Because I go to those things. I go to sci-fi conventions. I've been going to them forever. And now it's in a movie. And I know that it's fake. And I know that it looks really cheap. But remember, Chasing Amy was made for pennies. And it gets a pass on all of that, because the very fact that it exists is something to cheer about, and you don't nitpick on the tiny stuff that Kevin Smith couldn't deal with, couldn't work around. This is what you get, right? But it opens and we meet Holden and Banky, who are working on Blunt Man and Chronic, and they have a fan base, and there's Ethan Suplee as their Uber fan. But what's really cool is you get an iconic scene right at the front with Scott Mosier calling Banky a tracer, and that just entered the vernacular of my world forever. You tracer! I'm omitting all the curse words to keep my podcast clean. Thank you very much. But look who he pulls up to get confirmation on what tracing is. Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck's brother, right there in the beginning of the movie. And maybe we should talk then briefly about Ben Affleck. Now, I wasn't a fan of Affleck in Mallrats. He looks a little doughy, and he's a jerk-off. You're not supposed to like him. But what a difference a couple years can make. And in between Mallrats and Chasing Amy, whatever Affleck did, it worked. Because you watch this movie, and you're struck by, this guy's a movie star. He's got acting chops. He's taking the material uber seriously. It all feels real, and he's lost a little weight. But it's really interesting how good Affleck looks on camera, and how well he is in this, how great he is in this movie. Now, at the same time, he's doing Good Will Hunting, so he's just a year away from becoming Oscar winner Ben Affleck for his writing talents. But here he is showcasing that he's a major movie star, and no better indication of that, and with Matt Damon too, because Matt Damon's in the movie too. Like, here's two guys who were bit players in a couple of movies. What was it? School Ties, I don't remember. But bit players in a couple of movies, and then suddenly Affleck's in Chasing Amy, which gives him indie movie credibility, acting credibility, and overnight he's going to be a movie star, a big movie star, because he's going to go from Chasing Amy to Armageddon the next summer. Armageddon, the giant Michael Bay extravaganza movie. Armageddon. Now he's going to have to endure the most cringe-inducing scene of the 90s with the animal crackers, but it's a huge movie that's going to do huge box office. And Matt Damon's not sitting out either, because Matt Damon's going to go from being the guy in one scene of this movie to Good Will Hunting, right, to Saving Private Ryan, where he's Private Ryan. You know, these guys were on a huge trajectory, straight up. And they were friends of Kevin. And Kevin put him in this movie. And, you know, it might be Affleck's finest performance. Now, he's done some great movies. I just saw Gone Girl last week, and he's fantastic in this movie. And this is a guy who was overexposed for years. You know, Forces of Nature, Geely. These are terrible, terrible movies. Reindeer Games. Oh, awful movies. Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo. Well, he might have been, but Phantoms wasn't. But they're in this movie, and they're shining the talents that we know they have in this movie. And Ben Affleck, he owns this movie. He is the center of this movie, right? But he's equally tempered by Jason Lee as Banky, who this is his finest performance. Finest performance, because it plays to his strengths. He still gets to play that ultra dirty, foul-mouthed guy, but you can tell he really loves his friend in this. And when Alyssa Jones, the comic book artist, Idiosyncratic Routine, shows up at the convention and is introduced to Affleck's Holden character, you can see that Banky, he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't understand why they're doing this. Why are you messing with this girl? It doesn't make any sense. We got our thing. She's got her little thing. We're fine. But who shows up as matchmaker? What I would consider, you know, we know that Kevin Smith created Jay and Silent Bob and Dante Hicks, and I love all those guys. But man, Hooper is one of his finest creations. This guy is one of the greatest characters in the Kevin Smith library. Here he is. He's introduced as this Black Panther, Black Power comic book writer of this ridiculous comic called White Hayden Coon. And he, in the scene in the movie where they do the comic book panel, he gives maybe the greatest speech of Kevin Smith's writing career, where he talks about how Star Wars is about keeping the black man down. It's unbelievably funny. It's a riff on kind of what I think, well, who was it? Was it Chris Rock in Boomerang who talks about or is it Martin Lawrence? I can't remember. Who does the talk about how a pool table is about keeping the black man down because the white ball knocks all the other colors and then finally wins by knocking the black ball in. That's a great monologue, but this one's 10 times better because it's about Star Wars, and because he sells it, and because it ends with Banky asking, "What's a Nubian?" Oh my God, absolutely brilliant. And you know what? Scenes like that are what the pause button was made for, because you're probably laughing so hard, you got to pause the movie and then rewind it because you didn't hear anything after that. Fantastic sequence. Last night I was just struck by how incredibly well written it is. And that goes for about 90% of the movie. There's a couple of things I don't agree with, but 90% of the movie is Kevin Smith, the top of his writing game. You know, the movie has some weird editing and directing choices, but overall, to me, it's his most accomplished work. Because as good as Clerks is, it's not accomplished in the way that Chasing Amy is. It's in color. which is a whole different way of lighting, and the editing is mostly very good. There are some problems here and there, but mostly very good. And it doesn't suffer from the characters react to something we can't see on screen that then is never shown to us, like I talked about last episode, the comic book line in Mallrats. But it's a really good movie. And then the movie just continues to keep getting funnier. The whole Archie and Jughead were lovers sequence is hilarious. And they have to go across the street to get comics, which leaves Holden and Alyssa alone to bond with the dart game. And you know what? As a writer, it's difficult to come up with things for your characters to do so that they're not just talking heads. And the dart scene's really good because we get the dynamic of the darts coming at the screen. They're walking back and forth to retrieve them. People are coming out of the bathroom. It's all very well done. Very well done. It's a little wonky that there's some sort of window that they're looking at to see the couple making out on Banky's car, which is weird because if you've ever been in a real bar, a dive like the one they're in, they don't have big picture windows. But hey, that's fancy editing. It's suspension of disbelief. It's the quickest way to get the scene across, so I'm okay with it. And it's a great way to set up a rapport between these two characters. They're seeing something a little uncomfortable. If you're meeting someone for the first time of the opposite sex, or if you're gay, someone you're interested in, and the first thing you see is somebody really getting into the act on a hood of a car, it would be a little uncomfortable. But it's played for laughs, and it's very well done. So that when Banky and Holden get back to business and they have the meeting with Matt Damon and Brian O'Halloran, who's playing another Hicks character for whatever reason, Snoochies Boochies. And it's weird, too, because as a guy who spent the late 90s trying to write movie scripts, to have somebody offer you a deal to pay you money for your creation and then not immediately sign the contract was alien to me. It's only now as I get older and I've written 3 novels that I cherish that I would say, look, I need time to think about it too. If you're going to take my life's creation away from me and make it your new creation, I need some time to think about it, and I need to read the fine print. Thank you. But Banky and Holden's life continues. They're writing their comic, and then we get the scene, the turn of the movie where Hooper invites Holden out to a bar called Meow Mix. And boy, if that doesn't just send a red flag up, I don't know what does. But there's a cute scene where Holden is dancing to music that only he can hear, and telling Banky that this girl's crazy for him, and he's going to go in the city. He's going to, as a guy who tried to date in the 90s, in the early 90s, didn't we all have that moment where we got a call and a girl wants us to go somewhere, and it's going to be an hour drive, but it's worth it because she wants me to go, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to be her guest. So I get all that. And having Banky go and drive, that's really cool too, because it gets him to the club. They get to the club, and it's all played really subtle. And this is where a filmmaker has restraint, because you don't want to turn your hand too quickly. You don't want to reveal it prematurely, right? And Holden gets there. He sees Alyssa in that mesh shirt, and she's dancing. And they have this really fun conversation that just shows that these two really click with each other. She makes a ton of Clerks references about Caitlin Bree. And they talk about Julie Dwyer dying in the pool. So we get Clerks and Mallrats all together. But it's all done quick. So if you're not a View Askew fan, it's just characters having really witty, fun, clickable dialogue. And we, the audience, think, boy, this girl's really into this guy. She's flirting. She's dancing sexy. And what's not to love about her? I know that the making of this movie involved Kevin Smith and Joey Lauren Adams having an affair, having a relationship. And who wouldn't? Like, Joey Lauren Adams in the first half hour of this movie is She's a geek girl. She likes comic books. She knows how to have a good time. She's at that club dancing, and she's sexy. And it's followed up by they beckon her on stage to sing this Torch song. I'm telling you, if I'd been in the theater, I can't imagine anybody in the theater, man or woman, not immediately falling in love with this character and this woman and how she's playing her. And Joey Lauren Adams, and my phone is ringing. How about that? I have a house phone that rings once every 6 days, and it decides to ring right now. So I picked it up and hung it back up. I don't care who it is. You guys are more important. And it's usually just people trying to sell me something. But Joey Lauren Adams is the acting equal to Ben Affleck in this movie. And it's weird that she didn't have a mega career after this film. This is a star-making turn. This is a once-in-a-lifetime role for an actress to just grab onto and write it for all it's worth. And Joey Lauren Adams does. She's fantastic in this movie. She's lovable. She's sexy. Her song just melts your heart, right? And it's weird because you are right there with Holden. When he's staring at her singing, you just know everything he's thinking, and you're with him on it. You're totally with him on it. And then there's a little weird moment where this little blonde comes breaking through Holden and Banky, and she's bopping, and you think, well, you know, it's a pretty girl. I would have put her front and center. Now, I didn't know at the time that it's Jason Lee's wife, but she's right there, and she's bopping to the music, you know. You ever seen the Simpsons episode where Homer goes on tour with is it Hullabaloo, the fake Lotsapalooza? And when Sonic Youth is playing, they just cut to the teenagers dancing, da-da-da, and Bart and Lisa have this conversation about how making teenagers depressed is fish in a barrel. She just has that bopping, like, oh, this is how I dance to music, you know, and you don't think anything of it, except that she's into it as much as everybody else is, and you're with it too. And then she comes, you know, Alyssa beckons with a finger, and oh my, isn't that what every guy wants? That moment of we're done flirting. It's time to just go for it, and it shows in a weird '90s turn that Alyssa is the aggressor, and she's beckoning to Banky, and she runs, and then bam, she starts making out with the blonde, and the submarine ooga goes off, and Banky looks around and he's confused, and then they start showing all the lesbian couples in the bar. Everybody's hanging out, making out. There's some butch ones, some lipstick ones, and it's a gay bar. And then he has a moment, and then it's very funny acting on Jason Lee's part. And Affleck just looks like he's going to be sick. We, the audience, are like, oh my God. Now, it's one of those things where the trailer gave it away. But if you saw this movie blind and didn't know she was gay, and they reveal it at that moment, wow, what a turn. Bing! She's gay! And Holden has no chance with her. She's gay. And that's it. It's over, isn't it? Not so fast. Because instead of him hightailing it out of there, they are forced to go across the street to a bar again. And I you know, it's never really clear if where they're sitting is the Meow Mix bar still or somewhere. I don't know. It does. You know, I would assume it's the same bar. I don't know. But I do know that the scene is a really fun homage to Jaws, where Banky and Alyssa are showing off their sexual scars from injuries. And watch Affleck in the scene. He gets more and more disgusted as the minutes go by. And again, as a guy, haven't we all had that moment of, wow, I really like this chick? And the most common occurrence would be, oh, she got a boyfriend. Oh, she's married. So anything that she did cute suddenly is like, oh, well, I don't care because she's off the market. I don't care. I'm not going to look at her. You know, it's weird because I have this this history with my wife in that when I met my wife, she was married to someone else. And even though she was flirting with me hardcore, I don't even remember much of the first time I met her because I had that switch where somebody said, oh, she's married. And I just switched off. She's not available. It's not an option. So I shouldn't even bother with this. Now, she pursued me and actually left her husband for me. How about that, huh? I was a guy who couldn't get a date in high school. And as I got older in my 20s, I had my wife left her husband for me. I would never have predicted that. And I never would have encouraged it because that's not who I am. She got a boyfriend? Oh, I'm good, thanks. She's got a husband? Oh, I'm really good, thanks. And in Chasing Amy, it's, oh, she's gay? Well, that's it. Done. And Holden in that scene is done. So they got to go back to the city. I mean, back to New Jersey, out of the city. And eventually, Holden realizes that even though she's gay, he still likes her. So they start hanging out. And there's a really fun montage of them hanging out and having fun. And it's a really interesting because I don't think Kevin Smith, he doesn't use montages really. But it does cement in movie shorthand that these two are into each other. And Alyssa's into Holden, even though it's clear she is about women in this movie. She's about women. So they go to the park. And there's a great scene on the swings where you can tell it's weird. And I don't know if you have to be a guy to understand this. But in the scene in the park, the realism to me is that you can tell that Holden knows he has no shot with this girl. So suddenly all the barriers that are there when you're trying to get a girl to like you are gone. And he can talk to her any way that he wants. So he asks her questions that he would never ask someone he was trying to date. Sexual prowess, that sort of thing. How does it work? I don't understand. And he's kind of flippant about it. And it's an interesting scene, and it's played really well. Because when you're interested in someone, you're on your best behavior for the most part. And here's a guy with his guard down. He doesn't care. He has no pony in this race because it ain't going to happen. So who cares? And they come out of that scene with a real respect for each other because they've been, for the first time, completely honest. And they talk about what sex means, and it's interesting. Like, that's a really amazing, really well-written scene. And it's so weird because Smith is so used to doing easy jokes, you know. Anybody see any balls down there? About the biggest pear you ever seen, Dingleberry? Like, easy. Okay, right off the bat. Dun, 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 dun. And then suddenly, whoa. The subtext, the undercurrent of this scene is amazing. What a great scene in this movie. And it's not the best scene in the movie because those are coming up. Because we get that great montage when Banky, who in the train station has to show his porno books to a kid. Like, it's another weird, like, I don't know if that's Jason Lee putting that in or Kevin, like, pigeonholing him into this character. I don't know, but it's in there. And it's, you know, I don't get that stuff. But we get that montage of them being alone as friends together and the relationship cementing. But it's weird because for 90% of this movie, 99% of this movie, we only get Holden's point of view. So we're seeing the world through Holden's eyes. And we, the audience, like Holden, are in love with Alyssa Jones because she's presented to us as amazing. And she has no flaws. And she's brave and out there and funny. And what's sexier than a woman who's smiling and having a good time? You know, you ladies think it's about clothing and makeup and the right shoes and whatever. But ask any guy. There's nothing sexier than a woman having a good time. You know, we don't want to be with someone who's always upset, always looking for, if there's two ways, the wrong way to take something. Sexy is, I'm smiling, I'm happy to be with you. It doesn't matter where we go or what we do or where we eat dinner. We're just together, and that's fun. I mean, that's what guys find sexy. And Alyssa Jones is all of that. You know, she's like one of the guys because they're layering this lesbian subtext, you know, this lesbian character gloss on her. She's one of the guys. But guess what? She ain't. And we get a scene later that might be the best scene of the movie. But we're not there yet. Because first, we have to have maybe the second best scene of the movie. And that's where Holden confesses his love for her. And it's done so well. They're driving, they're laughing, and he just says it. I'm in love with you. You know? You ever seen The Office? You ever seen when Jim confesses his love for Pam? It's the same scene. They're laughing, they're having a good time, and then bam! I love you. And even though women say they want this in their lives, I can't recall a single movie where it's been a guy, I love you, and the girl wraps her arms around his neck immediately and starts kissing him. It's always, no, no, no. In The Office, Pam is engaged. In Chasing Amy, she's gay. In Attack of the Clones, she's a senator. Whatever the hell that means. So she sits quietly and listens while he unravels this amazing, like he's got a knife and he's opening his chest, he's ripping his heart out, and he's laying it right there for her in every kind of uncertain, blank, stark terms he can imagine. I love you in every way that a man can love a woman. I love who you are and what you make me when we're together. Like, Holden just nails it. And how Kevin Smith found this in himself and then put it on paper is astounding because it's so raw. It's so good. It's what everybody wants to say to that girl. And her response, she gets out of the car, starts walking in the rain. He goes and he follows her, and she just lets him have it. Like, who the hell are you to tell me this? And basically what she's saying is, this is your burden. This is not my burden. You decided to give this. You could have kept this. You're selfish because you decided to give it to me too. I don't want to hear it. And it's weird because you think that we're building towards that they're going to immediately start a relationship, right? But how often does that happen? She lets him have it, you know? And even while she's screaming at him, she's cute. It's Joey Lauren Adams. And then she storms off into the rain, and she comes back, and they have this amazing, real, honest kiss. And it's passionate, and it's shocking because she just said, you know, you got a crush, and I'm supposed to change everything about myself. You know, for you, this is business as usual, and for me, this is an uprooting of everything that I am. And wow, what an emotional wallop it packs. You know, I was watching it last night, and I was tearing up because it's so real and so fraught with emotion. And that's why we go to the movies, whether it's exhilaration or happiness or whatever emotion you're looking for in your movie. When it finally, you know, the combination dial lock finally turns and the vault opens and it spills out in whatever you're looking for, it's a rush. And in Chasing Amy, the first real rush is that scene in the rain. bam, he loves her. We can't do this. And then they're together. And it is the centerpiece of the movie, that sequence. Really, really good. Because we know it's not gonna work out, because it's a movie. These things rarely work out in the movies, Sometimes, a lot of times they do, but this one's complicated. This one's really complicated. And think about for a moment what Kevin Smith is saying about 90s culture. Because to me, the 90s were started off cultural, significantly wise. 1992, when Howard Stern debuted in Los Angeles radio. Now, whether you're a Stern fan or not, and I'm a big Stern fan, or at least I was until I stopped paying for Sirius Radio. The guy takes more vacations than Clark Griswold. But anyways, think about 90s culture and how, like him or love him or hate him or whatever, Howard Stern really brought the idea of the lesbian into pop culture. There was not a lot of lesbian stuff until Howard Stern came around. Because until that point, lesbians were always shown as rather mannish. They hated men. Look at not the hating men part, but the mannish part. Look at was it The World According to Garp? Look at movies where lesbian women are portrayed, and for the most part, leading up to the 90s, there are no beautiful lipstick lesbians or even this is going to sound terrible, complicated lesbians where maybe there's more than just their sexuality. And aren't we a combination of everything, likes and hates and loves and not just our sexuality? And when you boil somebody down to just their sexuality, you're pigeonholing them in a way that's completely unfair. But lesbians were not part of culture, When I was a young boy growing up, the ideal woman was Heather Thomas in that pink bikini in the jacuzzi from The Fall Guy. And how do I say that the way I'm looking at that poster right now? That's the first poster I ever bought at Zodi's, and it took a lot of guts to beg my mom for it. There were no posters of two girls. The idea of a menage a trois was not anything in the geek library of want in the 80s. And it wasn't until the 90s that it was like, oh, it's not enough to want the hot blonde in the Ferrari in the Spencer Gifts poster. You're supposed to now want two girls because we're seeing the emergence of, and you know what? This is a word that is never even mentioned in Chasing Amy. The word bisexual is never mentioned in this movie, even though it's a movie, the first movie I can even remember that's about a bisexual person. I'd seen movies about gays before. Never had a problem. And I'm not talking about the flamboyant Hollywood in Mannequin, or the equally lame guy in The Rock who's cut. I just want to, are you okay with your haircut? You know what I'm talking about. But I watched My Beautiful Laundrette, Daniel Day-Lewis, Prick Up Your Ears, Gary Oldman. These are real movies about real people where they just happen to be gay. And suddenly in the 90s, bisexual women were the thing. It was every guy's thing. Is I need not only do I need a girlfriend, but I need a girlfriend who has a girlfriend. And what a lot of pressure that was. Do you know how hard it is to get a woman in bed? And now you want me to get two? Are you crazy? That's a lot of work. But Howard Stern brought it to the forefront. And then Kevin Smith just sort of, I don't know if he picked up on it or if it was his own thing, but he's going to make this movie about sexual relations and how we view things. Because eventually Banky, I keep saying Banky, Holden and Alyssa get together. And we don't even see the sex scene. There's no sex scene in this movie. Other than the makeout scene at the club, it's not a movie about sex. It's a movie about sexuality, which is completely different. So when Banky comes to work the next day, we see the aftermath. We see the place is tore up. The couch is on its side. It's a mess. And there they are together. And she's wearing boxers. And something happened. And the scene they have afterwards is a really touching scene between two friends where he says, this is not going to end well. And Holden says, look, I'm not going to let... She's not going to come, but, it's not going to be a thing. He says, look, I don't want 20 years of what we've been building here to be for nothing. And Holden says, I'm not going to let her affect the comic. And he says, I wasn't talking about the comic. That's a great scene. It echoes one of my favorite scenes in Mermaids, where Bob Hoskins and Cher are arguing. And he says, what about us? What about us? And she says, no, Lou, you are you, and me and the girls are us. When did you and my girls become us? And he says, I wasn't talking about the girls. I was talking about you and me. He says, I've never wanted to hit a woman more than what I'd feel right now. Human, real emotion. That's what movies are about. And look, Chasing Amy is 17 years old. And Mermaids is 24 years old. And they stick with me like I just saw them yesterday. And in the case of Chasing Amy, I did. But when the movies echo and resonate like this, they stay with you. And we know it's not going to end well. Banky's just saying what the audience is saying. So now Holden and Alyssa have a relationship. And everything seems fine. Like, is this how the movie's going to end? And then we're treated to, again, what I think is the most poignant, interesting scene of the whole movie. And that's when, remember what I said about, this movie's about three characters. And when somebody else appears in the movie, it's time to pay attention because something is going to happen. And this is it. Alyssa is having comic book shipment night with all her friends. And they're helping her bag and board and get the comics ready to ship out. And they're just talking about this and that. And Alyssa confesses she's in love. She's in love with this person. And she uses the pronouns they. She never says he or she. And when she finally admits it's a guy, look at the reaction she gets. And the woman raises her wine glass and goes, there goes another good one. Meaning she's no longer allowed to be gay. And it says that the lesbian side of Alyssa's life is judging her just as harshly as the heterosexual side. And it gives Alyssa so much depth in that scene. Because now she has nobody but Holden in her life. And here's a girl who flitted around from relationship to relationship, slept with whoever she wanted to, did whatever she wanted. And now all her friends are shunning her for what? Because she picked the wrong gender. Oh, does that scene just hit you? Like right in your heart. Like a ton of bricks. Bang! You mean Alyssa's not this fun, carefree sex goddess? She's actually a well-rounded person of depth and feelings and emotion. And we just love her more for it because now we want to protect her. Now we know that all she has is Holden. And what does Holden get? Holden gets an education from Banky on what Alyssa did in high school and all the sexual escapades she had, and the main one being her high school nickname in the yearbook, Finger Cuffs. And we get this weird sort of rap music scene in front of the quick stop where somebody explains that Finger Cuffs means she was with 2 Men one time. One of them being Rick Darris, the same guy who was with Caitlin Bree in Clerks. And everything is circling up and getting worse. And instead of the adult thing to do, which would be to say, everybody has a past. And who you were in your past is what makes you who you are today. You wouldn't be the same person you were if you hadn't gone through all of that, good and bad. If I hadn't grown up with drunks and Don Berg, torturing me in every moment, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I don't thank him for that, but I understand it. And all Holden has to do is say to Banky, whatever. Who cares what she did yesterday? Because today she's with me. But he can't do it. He can't do it because he's young and inexperienced. And it's not till you hit 30, I guess, that you just... Who cares what you did earlier? Who cares who you were with? But I'm talking about the heterosexual history question. You know? Shouldn't ask. You shouldn't ask who your partner has been with. If they want to tell you, they'll tell you. And he didn't ask. It was given to him. But you know he's going to ask because he doesn't believe it. And we, the audience, don't want to believe it because we, the audience, like Holden, were led to believe that Alyssa had never been with a man because when she's talking with Banky in the Jaws homage scene, she's only talking about girls in her high school life. So Holden feels special. Like he's the only guy she's been with. He is finding new ground. And Hooper says it succinctly in the record store scene. And real quick, doesn't it suck that we can't have record store scenes anymore unless they're hipsters looking for the old stuff on vinyl? It's not quite the same if you're talking to your friend while scrolling through iTunes. Damn, I missed the record store scene. And the record store movie. Empire Records, High Fidelity. They're all gone. It's antiques now. Video stores, Be Kind, Rewind, Clerks. What a bummer. But we wanted to believe, like Holden, that it was his charm and her feelings for him that somehow broke her gay barrier so she could become straight. But that's so simplistic, isn't it? Isn't that just stupid? Aren't people way more complicated than that? And we get the scene at the hockey rink. And, you know, again, I keep doing real quicks, but that's what movies are about. I don't get the hockey thing. I know it's an East Coast thing. It doesn't snow in California. So if you want hockey, or even, you know, if you want hockey, you got to go to the rink. There's never going to be a time where you can play hockey. Even on, like, no, I don't know anybody that even plays hockey with rollerblades. Like, hockey's not my thing. I get that it's Kevin's thing with the hockey jersey and the constant hockey references. And when we get to Dogma, the hockey players that work for Satan. I don't know. I don't know what it is, or I don't know. But we get the hockey scene, and look how skillful and fun it is. Where they're watching the game, and as Holden's questions and grilling to her get worse and worse, so does the hockey game and you don't really, if you're watching it for the first time, you don't really get it until the knockout punch at the end. But subtly, we're getting two fights of the same ilk. And we know it's not going to end well. And it doesn't end well with her storming out after he's grilled her in front of all those people. But there is a fun little bump because who's sitting next to him? Rick Darris from Clerks is sitting next to them. Hello. But then outside we get another really good scene. And this is Joey Lauren Adams' tour de force. Because just like Affleck had the flip side of I love you, she gets the flip side of I love you. For other reasons, Holden, and she's just mercilessly pummeling him with how much she cares about him. And in a big Hollywood production movie, and you know they made one of these for general audiences, 3 of Hearts with one of the Baldwins and Sherilyn Fenn, and was it Sherilyn Fenn? I think it was Sherilyn Fenn, or was it? Lara Flynn Boyle, or maybe it was both of them. I don't know. God, remember Sherilyn Fenn? God, Sherilyn Fenn was the go-to girl, man. Late 80s, early 90s, softcore, Skinamax movies. Sherilyn Fenn, man. Beautiful girl. Although more women rented Two Moon Junction at my video store than men because it had Richard Tyson in it. Richard Tyson. Where's that guy now? Anywho. In a Hollywood movie, this scene would have ended with them getting together. And instead, it ends with Holden walking away. He just can't take it. You know, the Hollywood movie would have had him getting together one scene later. But he can't take it. And it's such a... this is going to sound terrible, too. It's such a young man's problem, like I said earlier. Sexual history, once you hit 30, 35, it means nothing. You love a person, not what they used to be or used to do, and who with whoever. And Alyssa lays out her whole sexual history in that sequence to him, and his response is to just walk away from her and leave her. And the scene ends with her banging her fists against a car and crying. And oh man, it's so heartbreaking because we know she has nothing else. All her gay friends have ostracized her, and now Holden is turning her away. Man, does it suck. And, as you get to the end of the movie and the finale scene, and I have to admit, when I first saw it, I thought it was silly because Holden's solution is he gets Banky in a room, he gets Alyssa in the same room, and he lays out his problems, and the solution is they all need to sleep together so that they can have this weird sexual encounter that somehow gives Holden all the experience that Alyssa has in one sitting, and he thinks Banky is in love with him, so this can get Banky's feelings straight on the matter. Like, when I first saw it, I thought it was simplistic and silly. And it probably stems from the fact that I'm not attracted to men, and I have no desire to sleep with another man. I just don't have that. Whatever people want to do is fine with me. Some people like to go to Taco Bell, but I don't. And some people guys like to sleep with men, but I don't. It's just not my thing. But I didn't get the scene initially, but I watched again last night, and I really, really watched it. And I think it plays beautifully. And it does in Holden's mind seems rational. And so that the audience, so that he's not bluffing, he actually does kiss Banky in the scene. And he tells him deal with it. And it's played for laughs. But there's a moment that's the moment in there where Kevin Smith is letting you, the audience member, know that Holden is not bluffing on this. He really means this. And Banky, his reaction is, he really means this. He's the audience proxy at this point. He means this. And Alyssa she's so disappointed because she knows that he means it. And for her, it's a different thing. Banky's terrified. And Alyssa is just disappointed in Holden. Banky agrees to it, and in that moment seals his friendship in a way with Holden that nothing will matter. I mean, this is the equivalent of a guy saying, yeah, I'm going to give you bone marrow to save your life. It's not the same, but it's really close, especially in Banky's eyes. If this is what my friend needs to get on with his life, and we're going to go back to our comics and the way things were, I will do this. And I mean, that's what a true friend does. So when Alyssa says, I'm not doing it, he's relieved because he was going to do it. And Alyssa just stands and delivers a really touching speech. And she tells Holden, you don't need this. I don't need it anymore. And if it is something you truly need, I'm not your girl. I love you. I only want to be with you. I spent all those years sleeping around and doing all that crazy stuff because I was looking for what is right here in front of me. And Holden realizes, oh my God, I've made a terrible mistake. But it's too late. And then she smacks him and says, I'm not your whore. And it just sort of ends there. And it's really well done. Really touching, and it has weight. The scene has weight. It's the climax of the movie, because afterwards we're just getting the pickup pieces, and the pickup pieces are just as good as the rest of the movie in a really short amount of time. And this is what good films are supposed to do. They're supposed to get to it in as quick amount of time as possible and move on. Don't dwell on it. The movies that dwell on it, that's the reason you don't like them, because they're treating you stupid. And in a very quick, broad stroke, we are back to the comic book convention where it all began. And yes, some of the people are still wearing their Borg costumes, but that's what people do. I've seen the same guy dressed as Dragon Ball Z Homer at Comic-Con for the last decade. And the same guy dressed as Chef with Jar Jar Binks' head on a platter for the same amount of years. So the Borg costumes don't bother me. But we get that we see very quickly that Banky has a new comic called Baby Dave. Alyssa's got a new girlfriend. It's Kevin Smith's sister. We saw her in Clerks, and she's back. And we see that there's Holden. And with the collapse of Bluntman and Chronic, he's actually made something worth reading that's not just stoner nonsense. It's actually personal and, again, has weight. And look at Alyssa's face, man. She is struck by it, and she cannot wait to read it. And even though her girlfriend comes back, who was that guy? Just someone I used to know. You can tell in that look, she's going to read that comic. This is just me, the audience member. She's going to read that comic, and maybe there's still something there. Maybe they can find love again, these two, because they need each other. They are for each other. And didn't they go through a change? Isn't that what great movies do? Show you a character go through a change? Holden saw the error of his ways. He grew the hell up, not only in his professional life, but his personal life as well. Damn, that's good filmmaking. Really good filmmaking. And another side note, haven't we all had that moment? With me, it's usually when I'm reading a really good book. Example, I've read the Golden Compass trilogy, his Dark Materials trilogy, 5 or 6 times. And there's a scene near the end where after the two main characters have virtually saved the universe and reestablished God on his throne in heaven, it's a little weighty. They realize they can't be together because the very notion of them being together violates the laws of the known universe. So they have to go back to their own respective universes where each one has the same bench in Oxford, and they say that they're going to sit on the same bench at the same time and think about each other in different universes. I cry like a baby every time I read it because it's so darn touching. And I look around and my family's eating dinner, watching TV, playing video games, and nobody cares. And I'm the only one who had that moment. And Alyssa had that moment while her girlfriend went to get water. Who was that guy? Just someone I used to know. But that's not what she means. What she means is that's the only guy I ever loved. And he just left. Oh, good filmmaking. Chasing Amy is a fantastic movie. Yes, it was made cheap. Yes, some of it looks wonky. The Criterion DVD I watched last night has lint on the film. Give me a break. Clean that sucker up for Blu-ray, please. But it's a good movie, warts and all. A fantastically well-done effort by Kevin Smith on a shoestring budget designed to prove, not to Hollywood, but to himself, that he can make a movie worth watching on time, under budget, for no money at all. After doing it the studio's way, he's going to do it his way. You know what? I'm applauding. God bless you, Mr. Kevin Smith. Chasing Amy's a masterpiece. It is your masterpiece. We'll get to the other movies eventually. Dogma, Strike Back, Clerks 2, which is really good. Jersey Girl, which is not so much. But, Red State, Tusk, whatever. Cop Out. Ooh, Cop Out is terrible. Cop Out's one of those movies on a list that I just turned off. Like I couldn't watch. There's a bunch of them. I'll list a few right now just so you know. And if you don't want to listen to 91 Reasons because of these reasons, I get it. Anchorman. Oh, God, I turned it off. It was so dumb. Not my movie. Awful movie. Didn't care how it turned out. What else? What did I just say? I didn't turn off Jersey Girl, but I wanted to. You know what? I'm too on to Chasing Amy for that list right now. I apologize. I will put that list on Facebook. But there are a bunch of movies that I just, because there aren't enough hours in the day in my life, I can't watch some movies. I just turn them off. I don't like it. Usually they're Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore, or Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. The exception being, of course, Mr. Deeds, because it stars Winona Ryder. And I'm working on that Winona Ryder episode in my head, because you all think I'm a Leah Thompson guy, and I was briefly, but I've always been a Winona Ryder person. Oh my God. She's the one celebrity I can't get close to. Never had the opportunity. Got really close one time, Alien Resurrection. Anywho, Chasing Amy is a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed watching it again. It's a movie I would watch many more times and will over the course of my lifetime. It has a lot to say about sexual politics in the 90s, sexual politics today, being pigeonholed into one, making a choice. One choice. You're an Elvis or a Beatles fan. I don't know. You can't like both? No. Tarantino says you can only like one or the other. You can only like boys or girls. You can't be bisexual? No. What if I am? Well, then you're weird. That's not right. And that's not the way humans are. We're complicated. And Chasing Amy is a complicated, really well done movie about, and it never strays from what Kevin Smith has promised to deliver us, and that's comic books, dirty sex talk, stoner jokes. I didn't even talk about the Jay and Silent Bob reveal scene. They don't even show up till the end in one scene to explain the title of Chasing Amy. And Kevin Smith, as Silent Bob, returns to giving the pivotal speech of the movie like he did in Clerks. And that's fantastic, and that scene's great. And it is fun to have Silent Bob finally tell Jay to shut up. Yak, 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 yap, 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 yap. What you don't know about me could fill the Grand Canyon, After watching Mallrats and, finding a little here to like, a little here and there, I found buckets to like in Chasing Amy, and you will too. And you've already seen it. If you're listening to this podcast, you've already seen it, and we're just talking about it. And that's what we do here on 91 Reasons. We're not the movie of a week podcast, like I've always said. We're not the what came out. I could have done Gone Girl, but I haven't had chance to watch it 10 times and digest it. That's not how I operate. I operate a little differently here, as you can tell. Well, I am over the hour mark on a single movie, which is the hallmark of what I like to do. So I gotta finish up here because I'm losing my voice again. Thanks for listening. As always, I am Jeff Tucker, the host of 91 Reasons. I have a great Facebook page where we put a lot of supplemental material to the episode. So please find us on Facebook and like us. Please subscribe on iTunes. That's the only way to further the show. We're a podcast with no ads as of yet. I'm fully financed by myself, so I appreciate all the great reviews on iTunes, because at this point, that's all I'm doing it for, is to hear how people like it. And I truly enjoy reading the reviews and what people have to say, even if they're like Adrian Romo, who flipped off his radio because of my Mallrats comments. And the irony is I reviewed the movie on a disc that he bought me, so it was his right to flip off the camera or the radio. But we'll be back with another episode next week about, I don't know if it'll be about Dogma. It might be about something else. I do these series, and I know I'm overdue for my third Batman, and I'm overdue for Revenge of the Sith. So we will get to those, We will get to them in time. I'm also, again, working on a really fun Halloween episode where I will talk about something that really happened to me. And also have another episode coming up about my father and how he was murdered and what it means to get that news, which is not good, even if you didn't really know him. But, wow, we're spiraling downward here. You know what? It's Haunt, man. I'm exhausted. Haunt's a killer. It's only going to get worse. Next week, Haunt begins on a Wednesday. So I don't get that third extra day of rest. I've gotten a bonus day. I won't get that. So
I may end up sounding like Red from the Tube Bar. The name is Red. But hey, you never know. The worse I sound, the better the podcast sounds, because I get that Doug Barnes radio voice of season pass. See, I can't even do it. Maybe I'll be able to do it next week. I'm just rambling. But thanks for listening. And if you want to support the show, like I said, do all those things with Facebook and iTunes. I am also the author of 3 books, The Lost Station, The Sixth Key, and my newest book, The Infinite Backward, all available on Amazon.com as either a beautiful paperback or as a Kindle download for only 99 cents. Hey, if you're in the movie industry and you like what I have to say and you think my movie stuff is interesting,
I have written at least a dozen movie scripts when I was trying to be a screenwriter, and I think they're great because I won't settle for inconsistencies the way a lot of big studio pictures somehow let slip through the cracks. So if you want to hear about those, send me an email. I'm also going to do a podcast where I go through the plots of some of those just because I think it's fun. And I can talk about how the first script I ever wrote was turned into a movie that didn't give me a dime, and I felt really weird watching it in the theater. Or how my high school play that I talked about, where The Two Brothers Own a Mortuary, was turned into a low-budget movie that I didn't get a dime for. So, you know, there's a lot of coincidences in Hollywood and a lot of times where ideas are stolen. And we just saw that this week with Saturday Night Live and the Tina Turner sketch, right? Who knows? I don't know. I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just saying that I'm a guy who likes to talk and a guy who likes to write, and I do plenty of both. And if you want to read some cool movie scripts, let me know. This is 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?